Chapter 157. Actually, this had happened to Fang Zhao in the game before. Zhuo Yu had clearly seen Fang Zhao killing monsters a few times, but he always had the feeling that Fang Zhao was in a trance. He had even asked Fang Zhao about it once, and the answer he had received was that he had some sort of epiphany. As for what it was, there was no need to ask Zhuo Yu, composing inspiration. Zhuo Yu had even joked that it was lucky Fang Zhao had not been born during the real period of destruction. If his soul had left his body during the period of destruction, he would have died a long time ago. Fang Zhao had only laughed back then and had not said a word. This time, watching the surveillance footage of the performance hall, Zhuo Yu had the same feeling again. He guessed that the boss was having some sort of epiphany again. However, even if that was not the case, Zhuo Yu would not say much to Chu Wei. If Fang Zhao had really discovered something strange, he would naturally say it. As a bodyguard, it was better for him to keep his mouth shut. Zhuo Yu had attributed this to inspiration. Regardless of whether Chu Wei truly believed him, at least he had not lost face. This could be considered a response. In the room, Natty Wuzi had shown Fang Zhao the progress of the investigation. The 6 people had all been paid to do their jobs. There was no way to know who the employer was, so it would take some time to continue investigating. The other party should be a veteran. They know who to look for and how to hide their identity. However, my guess is that the other party is not from one of those big companies. Based on my many years of experience, the chances of big companies using such methods are extremely low. At most, they will use this matter to push the blame. After all, it is because of you that Silver Wing's Virtual Projects Department and the Rising Gaming Department came into existence. There was something else that Natty Wuzi did not say. Given Fang Zhao's current status, if those big companies wanted to target him, they would target Duan Qianji or Silver Wing's senior management. There was no need to give Fang Zhao something to use against them. Their actions would not be so simple. It was rare for Natty Wuzi to patiently speak for such a long time. This was also a display of his sincerity. After all, it had been a loophole in their store that allowed others to take advantage of it. Of course, the most important thing was that Natty Wuzi wanted to invest in Fang Zhao. Many a time, it is some small fry who do not have a strong presence who will suddenly take a bite out of you because of some small matter that you do not value. If you do not guard against it, you might have a piece of your flesh bitten off. Fortunately, you were alert this time, Natty Wuzi said with deep emotion. Back in the day, he was also a dazzling star. He had encountered a lot of trouble and had experience. This time, if Fang Zhao had not sensed the other party's intentions first and made a move, it was very likely that the drugs would have been injected or slipped into Fang Zhao's pocket without him noticing. At that time, if a small reporter had been arranged to expose Fang Zhao's late-night clubbing in search of inspiration and the use of stimulant drugs, it might have really caused Fang Zhao quite a bit of trouble. After all, Fang Zhao was highly regarded by the academics. People will encounter more things after they become famous. Be mentally prepared. It's impossible to guard against such things. You can only be careful. Noticing that Fang Zhao was deep in thought, Natty Wuzi continued, it should be someone from a small to medium-sized company. They wouldn't dare make a move on the higher-ups of Silverwing, so they could only target you. I understand. Actually, Fang Zhao already had a suspect in mind. He had also gotten Wang Tai's side to investigate. He believed that there would be a conclusion soon. After that, Natty Wuzi explained the reason he had called Fang Zhao over today. Fang Zhao, your speed strumming technique isn't bad. Did you learn it yourself? Natty Wuzi asked. I learned from someone a long time ago and practiced for a long time after that. Practicing in one's head counts as practice, right? Fang Zhao thought to himself. However, Natty Wuzi had misunderstood. He thought that Fang Zhao was self-taught most of the time and had been learning the instrument for a long time. No wonder you are so good at it, yet you aren't famous in the circles of ancient instruments. In the future, you can hang out with people in the ancient instrument circles and participate in some performances. You can also come to my shop and play a few tunes from time to time. I know you didn't go all out the last time. This time, play it as fast as you can. Natty Wuzi turned on the camera beside him and prepared to start recording. He then said to Fang Zhao, after you finish recording, upload the video of your speedstrumming to the internet. That way, there won't be so many people questioning your ability. Don't worry, the quality of my instrument is very good. Playing it at speed is definitely not a problem. I have used it for so many years and have maintained it well. The quality of the strings might not be the best in the world, but they are definitely of the highest quality. Go ahead and play as you please. Natty Woozy was in a good mood. He spoke a lot more today, even though he still spoke slowly and didn't have the lightning-fast feel of his speed strumming. Play at full strength? Fang Zhao asked. That's right. Don't hold back. Let me see exactly how fast you can go. Generally speaking, guitarists needed time to adapt when using an unfamiliar instrument, but Fang Zhao didn't. Natty Woozy had witnessed Fang Zhao's speed during the exchange in the wee hours of the morning. This time, he believed that Fang Zhao would give him a pleasant surprise. At the start, it was as smooth as silk, fast and smooth. Following that, the density of the notes came crashing down like raindrops. Fang Zhao's wrist spun at high speed on the instrument's neck. His left hand was placed on the fingerboard as if he was playing a piano. The speed was still increasing, and the notes became more and more urgent. For many people, they could only hear the beginning and the end of the notes. As for the middle notes, unless they used tools, there was no way they could distinguish them, but Natty Woozy's hearing was exceptional. He was hailed as one of the 3 great speedstrumming masters. Before Jiminy and Lee Cossey, he had occupied the throne of speedstrumming for close to 20 years. His hearing was definitely not something an ordinary person could compare to. At the start, Natty Woozy was still able to smile with gratification and excitement. From the perspective of a senior, he listened while appreciating the music. But gradually, the smile on Natty Woozy's face disappeared. He didn't think about anything else and focused all his attention on listening. But even so, it was still strenuous, and this feeling was getting stronger. Fang Zhao's fingers were flying. His fingers seemed to vanish, and it was as if a ball of fire was dancing on the strings. Meanwhile, the instrument in his hands was like a reactor undergoing nuclear fission, releasing a tremendous amount of energy. Even with Natty Woozy's slow-motion hearing, the torrential density of the notes was completely insufficient. Was this Fang Zhao's speed? Natty Woozy stared at Fang Zhao in astonishment, as if he didn't dare believe his own eyes and ears. For those who did not have a strong sense of music, it might just be a dazzling performance. However, for those who had a strong sense of music, it was a huge shock. And this blow was Natty Woozy's own doing. His entire brain was on the verge of collapsing under the bombardment of the note. His entire being was shaken to the point of suffocation by the immense power being released. However, at this moment, the atmosphere that seemed to be on the verge of exploding suddenly disappeared. Fang Zhao stopped. Natty Woozy maintained his glaring posture for a full 7 or 8 seconds before looking at Fang Zhao in a daze. His throat made a wheezing sound, but he couldn't speak. All he could do was use his eyes to ask, "Why aren't you continuing?" "The strings are out of tune," Fang Zhao said helplessly. He also didn't want to stop midway. His mind had been filled with so many inspirations that he had almost forgotten Natty Woozy's purpose in getting him to play. But the strings were out of tune and seemed to be getting worse. This interrupted his train of thought, and he had no choice but to stop. Hearing Fang Zhao's words, Natty Woozy's facial muscles twitched. Even at that speed, Fang Zhao could still tell that the strings were out of tune. Natty Woozy was already completely unable to keep up. He couldn't even tell if the strings were out of tune, yet this kid could actually tell that the strings were out of tune. This meant that this kid's hearing far surpassed his own. Natty Woozy stared silently at Fang Zhao as if he was looking at a new species before shuffling over to the tea table. Fang Zhao hurriedly put down his guitar and prepared to lend him a hand. Natty Woozy looked as if he had suffered a huge blow. His face was pale, and his steps were unsteady. He looked like he would faint at any moment. Natty Woozy forced a smile with difficulty and waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need Fang Zhao's support. Then, he pressed a button on the tea table, and a drawer popped out. He took out a small bottle of liquid medicine and sprayed it on himself. After a few deep breaths, his complexion improved a little. Sitting on the sofa, Natty Woozy calmed down for a while before saying, "I am very fortunate and gratified." Natty Woozy gazed at Fang Zhao with a complicated expression. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart. "I am very fortunate that you didn't appear in my era." If a Fang Zhao had appeared during Natty Woozy's most glorious era, Natty Woozy might not have accumulated the fame and prestige he had now. He wouldn't have had that kind of confidence and arrogance when he played. "I am also very gratified. Even if Yangju doesn't have me, there's still you." Natty Woozy was one of the 3 great speedstrumming masters in the world, but because of his age, his body wasn't at its peak. He couldn't compare to Jiminy, who was 20 years younger than him, or Lee Kossi, who was in his 40s. For people in the new era, people in their 40s and 50s were the prime of their lives. Furthermore, they had already accumulated enough. Lee Kossi and Jiminy were at their peak, while Natty Woozy was slowly declining. Natty Woozy didn't acknowledge his old age or admit defeat. He was still suppressing his anger. Although he no longer performed in public, he still practiced in private. He had always thought that he could give it his all and compete with Jiminy and Lee Kossi. However, reality was a blow to one's confidence. Natty Woozy's sense of vicissitudes stemmed from this. But now, Natty Woozy suddenly felt that a huge boulder had been lifted from his heart. He no longer had any regrets. If the gap was small, people would feel unreconciled, regretful, and brooding over it. But if the gap was huge and there was no way to catch up, then even if they lost, they wouldn't feel so conflicted. Natty Woozy clearly understood that even if he had been here at his peak, he wouldn't have been able to compete with Fang Zhao's move. When he was young, Natty Woozy had always heard people say that when he played, he was like a machine in human skin, doing things that humans couldn't do. But now, Natty Woozy felt that the person before him was a real machine in human skin. Was that really something a human could do? Before this, those who had seen Natty Woozy's performance would say that after seeing Natty Woozy's performance, there wasn't much to see when they saw others perform. But now, Natty Woozy felt that after watching Fang Zhao's performance, there was no longer any meaning in watching videos of his previous performances. Taking a deep breath, Natty Woozy felt that he had regained his strength. He didn't touch the strings that Fang Zhao had just plucked. Instead, he picked up the tuning device. Indeed, the strings needed to be tuned. Fang Zhao was right. Natty Woozy wasn't in a hurry to tune the strings. He sat down and poured himself and Fang Zhao a cup of tea. On the black market, any one of them could fetch a sky-high price. It's not just him. There are many others who have done the same thing. People from Yangju and people from other continents. Probably because Natty Woozy spoke too little, he had already downed 2 cups of tea in this short conversation. However, he was in high spirits and did not show the slightest sign of irritation. Instead, he lowered his voice and continued gossiping. After all, this matter involved the leaders of the period of destruction. Even though there was no one else here besides him and Fang Zhao, out of respect, he did not dare discuss it aloud. Martyr Fang Zhao sacrificed himself before the founding of the period of destruction. Because of the restrictions at that time, his ashes were kept in storage until the war ended and a cemetery was built. In the central cemetery area, in the first row of graves, although Martyr Fang Zhao's grave was ranked second, in fact, his grave contained more funerary objects than the others. What I'm saying might sound disrespectful to the martyrs, but from a collector's point of view, the tomb of the martyr Fang Zhao is the most valuable in terms of the value of the funerary objects. At the same time, it is also the place that grave robbers have their eyes on the most. As the descendant of a collector, even though Natty Woozy's interest in other antiques was not as great as guitars, they were still antiques. Just talking about them made his heart itch. Smacking his lips, Natty Woozy sighed. No one knows how many priceless funerary objects were placed in Martyr Fang Zhao's grave. Those who knew are long gone, and there are no records of what happened. Only the notes left behind by those who participated might vaguely mention 1 or 2 things. In any case, up until now, no one knows exactly how many things were in Martyr Fang Zhao's grave. Martyr Fang Zhao's grave is the ultimate goal of all grave robbers. Therefore, our Yangju has more cemetery keepers than the other continents. On this point, even the cemetery in Huangju can't compare. Fang Zhao. Should he laugh or cry? Although martyr Fang Zhao's gravestone is ranked second in the core region, whether it's extremists or grave robbers, they all like to target his grave. Even General Wu Yang's grave is not as attractive as martyr Fang Zhao's. And in recent years, some people with bad intentions have deliberately released news that those precious antiques, which only have historical images but not actual objects, were placed in martyr Fang Zhao's grave as burial objects. Anyone with a brain would not believe such rumors. After all, the cemetery is only so big. There are so many precious antiques with images but no physical objects. Many have also been confirmed by archaeological teams to have been destroyed during the period of destruction. How could they still be placed in a cemetery? Unfortunately, many people are greedy for money and go to dig up graves. They deserve to be shot dead by the gravekeepers. They have also become pathfinders for some people. Seeing that Fang Zhao seemed to be deep in thought, Natty Woozy said nervously, "Don't get any crooked ideas. The cemetery's gravekeepers are not just for show. They can shoot any suspicious person. Besides, robbing a martyr's grave is punishable by law. Every year, no less than 100 people are sentenced to death for intending to rob a grave." Fang Zhao. "Don't worry, I have no intention of robbing a grave." He was just curious and wanted to see what was buried in his own grave. Was it an antique from a cemetery? Natty Woozy eyed Fang Zhao suspiciously. That's good. He had mentioned all this to gain Fang Zhao's favorable impression. People always worshipped heroes, especially young people. Not to mention people with the same name and surname. Young people in the new era worshipped martyrs with the same name and surname even more intensely. Natty Woozy also knew that Fang Zhao was not an easy person to persuade, but Fang Zhao was still young. Natty Woozy had talked about martyr Fang Zhao's deeds and his own ancestors. Seeing that Fang Zhao was clearly listening, Natty Woozy smiled to himself. There's hope. After talking about his ancestors, Natty Woozy paused for a moment before mentioning his parents and himself. Natty Woozy's mother was a businesswoman who owned a chain of hotels. She was the descendant of a wealthy family. His father was an archaeology professor at Yangzhou University. He was an academic figure and held an important position in Yenzhou's highest cultural and administrative authority. Thus, Natty Woozy's development from a young age had been rather smooth. With the protection of his parents, it could not be said that everything had been smooth sailing, but it was much better than those without any foundation. When Natty Woozy was 6 years old, he had seen his father and the archaeology team bring out an ancient electric guitar from a ruin. He had been hooked. It had really been love at first sight. In terms of talent, Natty Woozy also had it. Otherwise, among so many speedstrumming players, only the 3 of them had become great masters. At 22, he had participated in an ancient instrument competition and made a name for himself. After that, his brilliant career had begun. The Natty Woozy of that time was unparalleled in the ancient instrument circles. He was truly the world's #1 speedstrumming master. It was 20 years later that Jiminy became famous. Natty Woozy became the world's #1 and became one of the 2 speedstrumming masters. After a few more years, Lee Cossey also made a name for himself, and the #1 speedstrumming master in the world became 3. Even if there were others who were good at speedstrumming, compared to these 3, they were still lacking. But Natty Woozy had always regretted that his talent in composition was not as high as his talent in technique. He had never had the chance to win some of the more prestigious awards in the industry. In terms of artistic achievements, he could not compare to those who had won awards. Because of this, Natty Woozy's old man from the Ministry of Culture had specially spoken to him a few times. Now, at Natty Woozy's age, he had experienced many things and had seen things through. If his artistic achievements were not high, so be it. At the very least, he was still one of the 3 speedstrumming masters in the world and would leave a mark in history. Natty Woozy and the others who played speedstrumming belonged to the technical side. Although it couldn't be said that speed was music, many people who weren't interested in ancient musical instruments loved to watch such performances. Therefore, in terms of popularity, Natty Woozy wasn't any less popular than the winners. On the contrary, his fan base far exceeded theirs. This was the choice that his old man had told him a few years ago. Whichever path he chose, he would gain something, but also lose something. Later, as he grew older and his stamina could no longer keep up, Natiwuzi no longer performed in public. Instead, he used his background, connections, and popularity to become a businessman. He opened a shop, set up a company, and founded the NAS brand of ancient instruments. NAS was based on Natiwuzi's name. The brand logo was a capital Z, and the diagonal line in the middle of the Z was made up of 6 strings. The 6-string electric guitar was what Natiwuzi most commonly used. However, the NAS brand also produced 4, 7, 8, and 12-string guitars of different models and finishes. Other than the electric guitar, they also produced folk, classical, and bass guitars. If one wanted to expand their brand, they could not do without high-end customization. Lee Koss's guitar was 18 strings, and G Minis had even more. Thus, there would be some nouveau riche fans who would follow the trend and custom-make similar models. However, on the brand logo, Natiwuzi still used 6 strings. The first ancient electric guitar he had seen had been a 6-string one. Even though the archaeological team had discovered 7 and 8 strings, they could not replace the position of that first guitar in his heart. He himself also used 6 strings, and the middle line in the Z on the brand logo was also 6 strings. When he had first met Fang Zhao, Natiwuzi had already had this idea. Later, he had looked up information on Fang Zhao and seen Fang Zhao's ability and potential in the music industry. Most importantly, he had seen the electric guitar instruction video that Fang Zhao had posted online and seen by people from all over the world. It had been called the most formal ancient electric guitar instruction by some veteran ancient instrument masters. Because the background of the video was space, and all the decorative electric guitars in space were NAS, the Z on the guitars was very eye-catching. Just today, the number of people ordering NAS guitars online had suddenly increased. This made Natiwuzi see a business opportunity. There is something that I won't hide from you. Before you came over, I had originally intended for you to speed play a segment and I would post it online to tell everyone that there was no insider trading at all. It was all based on your ability. But now, I have changed my mind. This video cannot be posted online now. At the same time, I hope that within a year, you will not play at this speed in other public venues. Natiwuzi looked at Fang Zhao apologetically, his gaze sincere. I will give you more compensation. We can make a deal on this matter. Why? Fang Zhao asked. Natiwuzi's voice had become even more hoarse because he had spoken so much, but he had no intention of stopping. With a long sigh, he said, before this, I had thought that there would be a 4th speedstrumming master and that the 3 greats would become the 4 greats. But after seeing you play at full strength, I know that I was ridiculously wrong. There were many people who could strum a broken string, but to be able to stop at that kind of speed in the first instance, Fang Zhao was the only person that Natiwuzi knew of. If you really make an appearance, the entire world will no longer have the 3 greats or the 4 greats. There will only be one. Me, Lee Kossi, and Jiminy will all become a thing of the past. I will no longer perform in public. Being the world's number 1 or the 3 greats will no longer have much impact. On the contrary, I am more than happy to see you replace me and the others as the new speedstrumming master. I know Jiminy. He rarely gives concerts and loves to travel all day, so he won't mind too much. But Lee Kossi has been preparing for a global tour for 10 years and has just begun. If you appear now, his 10-year global tour will become a joke. Lee Kossi also has a background and loves to hold grudges. There is no need to clash with him. Why not wait for his global tour to end before you appear? That way, the conflict won't be so intense. Of course, the most important reason I am saying all this is that I owe Lee Kossi a favor. Back then, before I officially retired from the stage, during my farewell global tour, Lee Kossi and Jiminy both sacrificed some of their own interests to make my farewell performance even more perfect. In order to return the favor from back then, Natiwuzi was willing to use other things in exchange for this agreement. Natiwuzi had no complaints about this. I won't hide it from you, Fang Zhao said. I have no intention of focusing on speedstrumming and have no intention of publicizing it online. Natiwuzi. So you're saying that I brought this upon myself? However, seeing that Fang Zhao had no intention of doing so, Natiwuzi still disagreed. No, no, no. This kind of talent shouldn't be unknown. Fang Zhao, you only have 1 year. When that fellow Li Kossi completes his global tour and passes the buffer period, I will do my best to help you ascend to the throne of the world's #1 speedstrumming master. I will let the whole world know that even without me, Natty Woozy, there is still someone in Yangju who can contend for the throne of #1. That is #1 in the world. Fang Zhao, you can't imagine how many eyes will be watching you sitting in that position. How many spotlights will be shining on you. When that time comes, our NAS brand will be known by everyone in every continent. Natty Woozy stood up and used his raspy voice to describe a grand blueprint. He believed that no one could resist the temptation of being #1 in the world. Even he couldn't contain his excitement at the mention of being #1 in the world and recalling his most glorious years. What more Fang Zhao, who was in his early 20s and had just graduated from school 2 years ago, who knew that Natty Woozy's voice would turn hoarse, and his face would tremble from the intense fluctuations in his emotions. In the end, when he turned his head, he saw Fang Zhao calmly pouring him a cup of tea. Moisten your throat. Natty Woozy. Can't you give me a reaction? Fang Zhao looked at him quizzically. #1 in the world. Natty Woozy said through gritted teeth. I know. Natty Woozy stared at Fang Zhao for a few seconds before the agitated expression on his face faded. He sat back on the sofa and stared at Fang Zhao. You aren't willing to cooperate? You don't want to cooperate with me? I can sponsor your performance. There's no need to wait for a year. We can start preparing now. I can use all my connections to help you arrange it. When the time comes, as long as Li Kossi's global tour ends, you'll be #1 in the world. Don't just count on Silver Wing. Fang Zhao's expression didn't change under Natty Woozy's probing gaze. Instead, he calmly said, I also know that cooperating with you in this aspect is a very good choice. Natty Woozy's expression softened slightly, but he was also waiting for Fang Zhao to say but. Fang Zhao stared straight at Natty Woozy. Next year, I will be doing my military service. Natty Woozy. Once again, a cracked expression appeared on Natty Woozy's weathered face. He squeezed the words out from between his teeth. Military service? You have already graduated for more than a year, and you still haven't done your military service? There was really no way around the matter of military service. Even if it was for his future, he couldn't fake his military service. At most, he could use his connections to serve in a more relaxed place. When he had looked up information on Fang Zhao, he hadn't really paid attention to whether or not there was any mention of military service. When he had been planning for the future, the term military service simply hadn't crossed his mind. But a military service could delay his plans by more than a year, and that was still a short delay. If something happened midway, it might be delayed even longer. If he was unlucky, he might not even be able to carry it out. I can help you arrange it. Natty Woozy started thinking about who he could seek help from. Thank you, but I already have a plan. Right, Silver Wing will help you on this no matter what. Natty Woozy felt a little more at ease. If Silver Wing were to make arrangements, surely nothing major would happen. But he wasn't completely at ease. Even if Fang Zhao pointed out the problem with a finger, his plan could forget about succeeding. You must protect your hands. Natty Woozy repeatedly exhorted Fang Zhao to take care of his hands. Not a single finger could be injured. I will do my best. That was all Fang Zhao could reply. Even if Natty Woozy was angry, there was nothing he could do. There were too many uncertainties about military service. For others, even if their fingers were broken, they could be regenerated with current medical technology. But Natty Woozy also knew that for people who practiced extreme speed strumming, even if their fingers were regenerated, they might not be able to reproduce the same effect as before. Even if they could, it would take an unknown amount of time. What a headache. Natty Woozy wanted to upload the video of Fang Zhao's speed strumming, but when he thought about Li Kossi's help back then, he sighed dejectedly. Forget it. The world's best speed strumming and whatnot, it was better to push it back. However, this didn't mean that he had changed his mind about asking Fang Zhao to be his spokesperson. Let's put speed strumming aside for now. Right now, we can still cooperate in other ways. How are your folk guitar skills? Natty Woozy asked. Not bad, Fang Zhao replied. Natty Woozy raised an eyebrow. That's good. He wasn't used to playing that anyway. If Fang Zhao could play it, that would be perfect. Natty Woozy had already prepared for both possibilities. Even though Natty Woozy was one of the 3 great speed strumming masters, not everyone liked his style. His influence was on the wane, and people who really wanted to play ancient instruments might not necessarily like acoustic instruments. Thus, to open up the market, especially for school students, Natty Woozy had long planned to expand the production of a batch of folk guitars. Primary and secondary schools had interesting courses. Universities had more freedom and more clubs. Natty Woozy had no intention of giving up on this market. Although he liked the acoustic guitar, he was also a businessman. He couldn't demand that others share his tastes. Chapter 159. Fang Zhao also knew about the film Natty Woozy was talking about. It was called A Guitar Romance. He even knew the male lead in the film. It was Ji Polan. Back when Fang Zhao had first taken over the Virtual Projects department and created the virtual idol Polarlight, Ji Polan had been hired to be an iModel. In the end, he had become a spectator and had been doing odd jobs in the department. Ji Polan had been on the production staff for Polarlight's first song. Back then, Ji Polan had only been a C-grade contract employee. He had probably found a knack for his acting skills and improved quite a bit. His looks were indeed good. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been signed by Silver Wing. His acting skills had improved, and his way of dealing with people had improved. His contract had already been upgraded to B grade. Now that the entire Virtual Projects department was highly confidential, Ji Polan couldn't go to the department to chat even if he wanted to. However, he still kept in touch with Zhu Wen and the others. A while back, Fang Zhao had overheard Zhu Wen and the others discussing company gossip. Ji Polan had accepted yet another film and was the male lead. Apparently, in order to secure the role, Ji Polan had worked hard on the guitar and hired professional tutors. To be better than other actors of the same caliber, learning a few chords was not enough. Before accepting this film, Ji Polan had only known that many antique guitars were made of wood. He had no idea how many strings there were, and he had no idea how many types there were. He knew that he could use a stunt double and synthesize it in post-production, but if he had a bit of foundation, his chances of snagging the role would be higher. He had started practicing 3 months in advance. Actually, the company did not pay much attention to this kind of low-budget film. Every month, every genre had a shooting target, and the script was basically a new bottle of old wine, tricking other investors to invest in it. This Guitar Love was a co-production between the company and other investors. When Fang Zhao first heard the title, he had thought it was a youthful inspirational film about music and instruments, but in fact, it was a youthful school idol film. Now, after hearing Natty Woozy's explanation, Fang Zhao learned that besides Silver Wing itself, the other investor was Natty Woozy's NAS. Ji Polan's guitar tutor was from NAS. There were many traces of the NAS brand in the film, and the guitar the male lead used was also a NAS brand. I was the one who came up with the title. Natty Woozy was a little pleased, but then he frowned. It's just that the filming progress is too slow. Fang Zhao nodded. Slow work yields fine work. As long as you are satisfied with the product, I will do my best. I know the male lead. He's a very hard-working fellow. I heard that he trained hard for 3 months just for one of the scenes. Natty Woozy had originally wanted to urge the other side to increase the pressure, but when he heard Fang Zhao's words, he chuckled. That tone of yours. You aren't big either. However, Natty Woozy did not rush him any further. Because this was part of his plan to expand his brand, he had spent a lot of effort in selecting the actors for this film. If it weren't for the calluses on Ji Polan's hands from practicing the guitar, he wouldn't have chosen the actor. Natty Woozy's request was to minimize post-production and not use computer technology to create footage of the performance. Now that he heard Fang Zhao say that the other party was indeed hardworking, he felt a lot more at ease. Indeed, as long as he was satisfied with the result, he didn't care too much about other things. Anyway, the filming was almost done, and it should be done in the next 2 days. He could urge them during the post-production. Now that technology was advanced, the production cycle for a film wasn't long. This kind of low-budget film was even shorter. Natty Woozy had invited Fang Zhao to give lessons online. Fang Zhao didn't have much time, but he could spare an hour or two a day. Natty Woozy was very happy to receive Fang Zhao's approval. When he heard that Fang Zhao had come to space to seek creative inspiration, Natty Woozy waved his hand and gave Fang Zhao a special privileges card that gave him even more privileges than those VIP cards. Natty Woozy had also given Fang Zhao quite a number of recordings of performances in the performance hall. From time to time, Natty Woozy would invite some rather famous bands or musicians to perform. The recordings of the performances were all stored in the store. Not all of them played ancient instruments, but their styles were trendy and could easily lift the mood. Electronic music dominated. This was exactly what Fang Zhao wanted. Natty Woozy wouldn't feel good if he spoke too much. Fang Zhao didn't continue staying. After discussing the first step of their collaboration with Natty Woozy, he left with Zhuo Yu. On the way back, Fang Zhao received a call from Wang Tai. "I have news." Wang Tai had a pleased look on his face. "I said that I wouldn't let you waste your money. As long as you are willing to fork out the money, I will definitely help you dig out the truth." After the fight at space, Fang Zhao had asked Wang Tai to dig out the mastermind. Given Wang Tai's familiarity with the gaming circles and his keen sense of smell as a veteran paparazzi, even if he couldn't dig out the whole truth, it would be good to dig out some information. However, Fang Zhao hadn't expected that Wang Tai would have news in just one day. "Speak," Fang Zhao said. "The person who attacked you was hired by a manager from Zebra Esports Club. You should have heard of this esports club. In recent years, they have been ranked among the top 10 esports clubs in Yangzhou, but they are in the bottom 10. In the whole of Yangzhou, they should be ranked in the top 30. This had been announced at the press conference, so it was no wonder he had been targeted. Wang Tai shared his conjecture with a hint of schadenfreude. They had been watching you for a few days, but they could not find an opportunity to make a move. Later, after the video of you teaching your juniors how to play the guitar was released, they went to space. You should know what happened after that. They probably wanted to draw the issue to a feud within the music industry, but they did not expect to be caught by you and sent to the hospital. Now, those 6 people are still lying in the hospital, under police guard. If those 6 people had not been beaten to the ground by Fang Zhao and Natty Woozy's internal investigation had been swift, Wang Tai might not have been able to get the information so smoothly. "Oh," Wang Tai said solemnly. "Besides me, there is another group of people investigating your matter. They are quite diligent. They are not Natty Woozy's people. Previously, Natty Woozy's people were mainly investigating their internal affairs and did not have the time to look elsewhere. But this group of people is different. Although they took a little longer to find out what I could, they should have more or less finished by now." Fang Zhao thought for a bit and said, "You don't have to continue on your end. Are those people from Silver Wing?" "Probably. I was wondering." Wang Tai's mouth twitched. Zebra's people definitely did not expect Silver Wing to mobilize so many people to investigate you. Only a few people at Silver Wing knew how important Fang Zhao was to the Virtual Projects Department and Gaming Department. Big Boss Duan Qianji was afraid that Fang Zhao would be poached away, so she had specially hired Zhuo Yu, a former Special Forces member, to be his bodyguard. Zebra had ambitions, but did Silver Wing not? Wayne's ambitions had just begun. When he had received the news that Fang Zhao had almost gotten into trouble at space, he had been scared out of his wits. "So I'm really going to stop. I have organized all the information I found into an electronic file and sent it to you." Wang Tai asked again, "You really don't want to continue investigating? There must be someone behind this. Otherwise, Zebra's people would not be so impulsive. It's just those few people. You won't find much evidence," Fang Zhao said. "That's true. We are all smart people. Let's let this stupid horse test the landmine first and see if it will be injured," Wang Tai said indifferently. He had seen this sort of thing many times and didn't find it strange anymore. Competition existed all the time, but genuine fair competition was rare, especially in the entertainment industry. After returning from space, Fang Zhao took out the video of the performance hall that Natty Woozy had given him and learned quite a bit from it. That night, Natty Woozy had obtained 2 performance compilations and sent them to Fang Zhao. Not only were there performances from Yangzhou, but there were also performances from other continents. Many of these could not be found online. Fang Zhao would not disappoint Natty Woozy since he had helped him so much. Besides composing, he also made online teaching plans. The next day, Fang Zhao went to the company. Wayne wanted to speak to Fang Zhao alone. "I won't give you such lousy ideas next time. Director Duan called me up and scolded me for an hour yesterday." Wayne still had lingering fears, not just from being scolded by Duan Chenji in her office, but also because of Fang Zhao. If Fang Zhao really got tangled up in the matter of composing involving the use of drugs, it would definitely be troublesome in the short term and might even affect Fang Zhao's form. "Why don't you stop looking for inspiration? Let the company do the accompaniment music for the promotional video," Wayne suggested once again. "I have some progress on my side. I will let you take a look at it first. When the time comes, if you think it's not good enough, then we can change it." Fang Zhao was not an obstinate person. If his composition was really not suitable, then he could use someone else's. He knew that Wayne had already found someone to compose and prepare for both scenarios, and he had no objections. All right then. In any case, this has to be completed before January. At this point, Wayne couldn't help but reveal his true motive. "You guys can charge into the top 10, right?" Wayne rubbed his hands together. "It's not that I don't believe in your abilities. It's just that, Fang Zhao, you haven't logged in much, and you're gradually letting Jinro lead the team. The others in the team are also improving very quickly. It's just that the increase in experience isn't that great." As the other person in charge of Silverwing 50 Polarlight, Wayne was anxious. When Fang Zhao wasn't in the company, he had even called Jinro and the others for a meeting to ask, but Jinro and the others said that Fang Zhao had other instructions. He wanted them to lay the foundation and not advance rashly. For example, they had to practice their driving skills, marksmanship, concealment, detection, identifying danger types, and other survival skills. That was why they hadn't let loose and fought monsters. It was already not easy to maintain a top 15 ranking. Knowing that this bunch of youngsters only listened to Fang Zhao, Wayne wouldn't be able to get much information out of them, so he could only rely on Fang Zhao. As Wayne spoke, he observed Fang Zhao's reaction. Seeing that Fang Zhao didn't say anything, he thought for a bit and said, "This time, the people who directly made a move against you were people from Zebra Esports Club." Wayne told Fang Zhao what he had found out. "We can't just eat this loss for nothing. Don't worry, I will get people to handle things in real life. But in the game, we can't let others step on us, right? We are only 2 places higher. If we charge forward, we will be able to step on them." Fang Zhao nodded. Thinking about it, it's about time. Seeing this, Wayne thought that Fang Zhao had listened to his advice and finally changed his mind. The smile on his face widened, but he quickly controlled his emotions and said seriously, "Then everyone will be waiting for the good news. I almost forgot to ask. What is your relationship with Natty Woozy? Why is everyone online saying that you are Natty Woozy's illegitimate child or a long-lost grandson or something?" Wayne asked curiously. He's an ancient instrument enthusiast, so we exchanged some ancient instrument playing techniques. He wants to collaborate with me. It won't affect our matters here, right? It won't. That's good. That day, Fang Zhao went to the 50th floor and convened the Virtual Projects Department for a meeting. The Polar Light and Silverlight project teams were present. Starting that night, the Silverlight gaming team, which had been slowly climbing the ranks, suddenly became lively as if a seal had been lifted. Fang Zhao had already taught them all the skills that he could. How much they could master was up to them. Fang Zhao would gradually withdraw from the team's operations and hand over leadership to Jinro. During in-game operations, Jinro would also gradually start to keep his distance from them or watch from the sidelines. After all, Jinro would have to serve in the military next year. He had to let them adapt to the new combat style in advance. Even if they continued to add new members, Jinro would be able to handle it well. December 9th. Silverlight's Battle of the Century team was ranked 10th in the Yangju region. Zebra Esports Club, which had originally been ranked 10th, was pushed down to 11th, December 10th. The system issued a warning. Players left their original battlegrounds. Players fled toward the newly opened new districts closest to them. The Silverlight team, which had long been prepared, formed a convoy of players from District 79 and headed toward the new district. December 12th. Natural disasters struck again. Berserk beast hordes welcomed a new round of eruptions. The original 100 battlegrounds of Yangju had all fallen. December 15th. The Silverlight team was ranked 9th in the Yangju region. Chapter 160. Battle of the Century, somewhere in the southern region of the Yangju region. A large fleet of vehicles was heading toward the destination the game system had given them. The new district is in this direction, right? Milo asked as he studied the map and the surrounding terrain. His eyes glanced at Fang Zhao, who was sitting on the roof of the car beside him. Seeing that Fang Zhao was not looking in their direction and only nodding at Jinro and Dorian, Milo heaved a sigh of relief. He had not pointed in the wrong direction this time. Milo only had one word for Fang Zhao now: admiration. Before this, they had never understood why Fang Zhao kept forcing them to learn those skills. Only when they started fleeing did they realize the importance of those skills. Others might have to spend more time adapting midway, and the chances of losing their lives were higher. And once they lost their lives, they might not be able to keep up with the team quickly, because after losing their lives, there was a time limit. As for others, they had previously felt that following a Silverlight team would not earn any points or kill monsters. Now, players were scrambling to cling to the Silverlight team's thighs. They were not stupid. They knew that following them meant they could survive longer. Dying once was a serious penalty. Furthermore, following the Silverlight team meant that they could borrow the fleet's cars, and the chances of avoiding danger were higher. They had finally realized that killing monsters with all your might did not increase your experience points. Tiring yourself out for a week and losing your life once was the same. And many times, the longer you lived, the more experience points you gained. This was also why many people called Battle of the Century a survival game and not a killing game. Survival was the most important. No matter what you wanted to do, you had to stay alive. Only to stay alive did you have to kill monsters. The fleet following the Silverlight team was not made up entirely of Silverlight members. Most of them had been gathered in District 79. It was a multi-team team led by Silverlight. Without reporters chasing after them, the Silverlight team had more fun. But even without reporters, the Silverlight team was always the focus of attention. "Hey, have you guys seen what the 500 years god looks like?" someone whispered to the person beside him. The ID alive after 500 years was too long, so they shortened it to 500 years in private. "No, I've only seen him kill monsters. He's too fucking cool. My eyes can't even keep up with his gun swapping." "Are you new here? What's the big deal about swapping guns?" Back then, when they brought us out of District 79, they drove the car into the air. There were a few times when I thought we would be sent flying. He can even kill monsters while driving, with one hand on the steering wheel and the other holding a gun. TSK. It seems like no one knows the real identity of the 500-year-old Almighty. So many paparazzi didn't dig out any information? Who knows? But according to past practice, Fiery Bird's annual meeting is about to start. Silverlight will definitely be in the top 10 and will definitely be invited. When the time comes, we will know. That's true. He really hoped that Fiery Bird's annual meeting would come soon. When is it opening? I heard that it's set for the 100th day of the release of Battle of the Century. It's almost here. It should be around the 8th and 9th of January. Doesn't that mean we still have to wait for more than 20 days? Let's wait. In any case, no one has been able to dig up any information about him. Where's the paparazzi king? Wasn't there a rumor that the paparazzi king who had been locked up in the extraterrestrial prison had been released? Why is there no movement? At this moment, the paparazzi king, who was being discussed in private, was telling stories to the 500-year-old Almighty. Wang Tai stood beside Fang Zhao and told him about his experiences as a war reporter. Other than following the team and filming, he also had a part-time job of telling stories to Fang Zhao. At first, he had wanted to brag, but later on, he felt like he was like a storyteller in a tavern that royalty would hire to entertain them. However, when he thought about the additional salary Fang Zhao had paid him, Wang Tai adjusted his attitude and continued to tell Fang Zhao about what he had seen and heard during his time in prison. During his time in prison, being dragged over to be a war reporter was just one of his experiences. Actually, at the start, Wang Tai had wanted to talk about some scary things he had heard or experienced to scare Fang Zhao. He had heard that Fang Zhao was going to serve in the military next year, so these things would definitely scare the kid. But after he finished, Wang Tai realized that Fang Zhao had only sighed and said, "It's never easy." He did not look the least bit intimidated. Wang Tai did not understand what Fang Zhao meant by "it's never easy," but he knew that even if he asked, he would not get an answer. He had suffered at Fang Zhao's hands too many times. He had even hoped that Fang Zhao would hurry up and serve in the military. Only when Fang Zhao was not around could he continue to let loose and stir up trouble in Yangzhou. Otherwise, with Fang Zhao around, he would always feel like there was a pair of eyes watching him from the shadows. After a while, Wang Tai quickly glanced at Fang Zhao and thought to himself, "This kid is daydreaming again." As Wang Tai was thinking, Fang Zhao suddenly looked in a direction, as if trying to identify something. "Something is coming, and there is quite a lot of it." Fang Zhao's words made the team, which had been resting, immediately go on alert. "Prepare for battle," Jinro shouted, getting up to assign tasks. Besides his team, he also had to assign tasks to the others in the convoy. They were a team of survivors, and if they wanted to go to the new district, they had to cooperate. Otherwise, he would not allow these people to continue following. "The alarm hasn't gone off yet. Where's the danger?" Before one of them could finish his sentence, the alarm in his hand went off, and he immediately froze. The others beside him rolled their eyes. "You're new, right? Just get used to it. You just need to know that following Silverlight is never wrong." Everyone had gotten used to this. At the start, they had doubted Silverlight, but now they were convinced. Some people would not be foolish enough to provoke Silverlight. Not to mention their combat power, their survival skills were much stronger. If anything happened, they just needed to follow Silverlight. But many people had a doubt. Why was Jinro the one in charge of assigning tasks and not alive after 500 years? Had Jinro pushed alive after 500 years down? But it did not seem like it usually. Jinro and the others still called alive after 500 years boss. Either alive after 500 years did not want to be the captain or the vice captain and had given it to Dorian, or there was some ulterior motive. Outside, gossip was flying everywhere. Many small newspapers even said that the Silverlight team had internal strife and that the other members of Silverlight were ganging up on alive after 500 years. Someone in the convoy had asked Schwarzer in private if he felt that it would be easier for this university student to break through. In the end, Schwarzer did not reveal any important information. When asked if he was ganging up on alive after 500 years, he jumped in fright. "Ganging up? I don't have the guts." Schwarzer would never forget when Fang Zhao had first recruited him. He had wanted to show off in front of Fang Zhao just because he had learned a little martial arts. In the end, he had been kicked offline by Fang Zhao. Even now, he was still traumatized. Regardless of whether it was online or offline, he practiced even harder. "Hey, Mr. Hua Li, later on, you have to make sure I look more handsome." Schwarzer did not forget to remind Wang Tai before the battle began. "Idiot, who knows what you look like with a helmet on?" Jake said disdainfully. "Handsome, definitely handsome. Don't worry, everyone. You have to believe in my filming abilities. When the time comes, you will know when you see the finished product in the promotional video." Jinro pointed to a spot in the team and said, "Boss, there are people who have been set to sleep mode and are unable to fight. We don't have enough manpower, so I'll have to trouble you." "Sure." Fang Zhao walked over. After everyone was in position, the warning device displayed even more red dots, but there was no specific number. The first-generation warning device had been exchanged for points, and many of its functions were not complete. When Silver Wing Education's live broadcast got the news from Fang Zhao's side, the live broadcast cut over. Fang Zhao was hugging a guitar with the NAS insignia as he sat there. Behind him was a wall of NAS guitars with different structural characteristics. Today, I won't be teaching everyone playing techniques. Due to the increase in the number of people watching the live broadcast and subscribing to the video, and based on everyone's questions, I will be talking about guitar types and what to buy for beginners. Everyone knows that there are folk guitars, classical guitars, electric guitars, and so on. Based on their structural characteristics, guitars can be further divided into hollow wood guitars, hollow electric guitars, and solid electric guitars. Take a look at the ones behind me. Fang Zhao gave a simple explanation of the types, different sizes for different ages, how to feel, the grade of the wood guitar, and other basic knowledge. Why did Fang Zhao choose these? It was because there was a trending tool for showing off recently, the guitar. Following Natty Wooz's investment, G. Poland's A Guitar Romance youth film had started airing. The advertisements had been well done, and the promotional photos had been shot with the guitar strapped to an attractive pose. With the promotion of some people with ulterior motives, ancient guitars had suddenly become popular among students. Previously, Fang Zhao's live broadcast hadn't covered these basics because most of the viewers were professionals. Even non-professionals had come into contact with ancient instruments, so Fang Zhao didn't need to explain too much to them. The focus was on playing techniques. Now, the number of people watching the live broadcast was doubling every day. Many beginners had questions, so Fang Zhao had naturally released an episode aimed at beginners. Even if it was just to buy a guitar to show off, they still had to know how to choose, how to hold the instrument, and how to avoid being scammed by unscrupulous sellers. On a certain floor of a residential building in Qian City. In the new era, middle school was a 6-year system. A 5th grader carried the gift he had begged his parents for a long time, a NAS hollow wood guitar. He adjusted the straps and imitated the male lead in A Guitar Romance when he went on stage to perform at the school anniversary. He lowered the guitar below his belt, straightened his face, and performed a grim salute in the mirror. Handsome. But it doesn't seem to match my temperament. The boy adjusted the straps and posture again. This time, he imitated a certain band member in a performance video. He hung the guitar close to his chin, like a bow tie. Even more handsome. But it seems a little uncoordinated. After some thought, the boy imitated an electric guitar player he had seen on the internet. He extended the straps again so that the guitar was facing down, and he carried it on his back. Seems like I'm still missing something. As he said this, the boy dug out a vintage cowboy hat from his dad's cabinet and plucked an unknown stalk of grass from a potted plant his mother had planted on the balcony. He held it in his mouth and struck a few unruly poses in front of the mirror. So fucking handsome. After finalizing his style for the day, the boy hummed a tune as he left for school. Just as he left the district, he noticed a boy from his school carrying a guitar on his shoulder like a shovel in an old-era movie. It looked pretty cool. Forget it, I'll change to that posture tomorrow. High school and university teachers watched helplessly every day as their students changed their posture to show off. But students didn't think that way. They felt that what they were carrying wasn't the guitar, it was their temperament. It was style. Chapter 161. The more electronic an object was, the faster it evolved and its appearance changed. Thus, people were more willing to collect more ancient objects. Natty Woozy had worked with many people to promote this guitar trend, and it had been a great success. Just look at the guitars that young students carried on their backs or carried on their shoulders. Natty Woozy had also gotten the media to focus on some of the more eye-catching incidents, such as a certain male student from a certain school running to the female dormitory to play a guitar and confessing his love for her. Similar scenes had been seen in the movie A Guitar Romance, and the students were imitating the movie. The so-called fashion trend was determined by people. Natty Woozy had made ample preparations for this day. With the promotion, not only had Natty Woozy's NAS brand become popular, but G. Poland, the male lead of A Guitar Romance, had also become a minor hit. Zhu Wen and the others had mentioned that when G. Poland followed the team for publicity, He would often go to university or high school campuses for publicity. He would carry a guitar every time, and his posture would be different. Students would fight to imitate him, and he had the momentum of becoming a popular young artist. At the same time, the number of people watching Fang Zhao's live broadcast increased. Every day, Fang Zhao would spend an hour teaching and the other hour answering questions from viewers online. From time to time, he would play a few modified guitar scores. They were all relatively simple and suitable for beginners to practice. There were many recordings from the old era, but most of them were no longer suitable for the new era. A few modifications would be more acceptable. For the same song, the electric guitar and the acoustic guitar would play different versions, and the technique would be different. Fang Zhao would also explain to them the difference. For example, in the example he had given the day before, the acoustic guitar used more slide techniques, while the electric guitar used more push techniques. Today, as usual, Fang Zhao answered a few questions from viewers online and ended the broadcast with a new series of guitars provided by Natty Woozy. Because the market was too good, Natty Woozy's company had released a new series of guitars called Rising Sun, which was targeted at students. Today, Fang Zhao was holding a wooden guitar from the Rising Sun series. He plucked at the strings lightly. His seemingly casual movements produced a gentle and steady sound that resonated with the high-quality wood. The sound was transmitted from the live broadcast room along with the video. Today, he was playing a song from the old era that a member of the online audience had requested. Recently, retro styles were popular, and many people had dug out songs from the old era. Yesterday, he played an adapted birthday song for an audience member who was celebrating his birthday. That audience member was so excited that he directly tipped 10,000 yuan. At the end of each day, Fang Zhao would choose a song from the list of songs selected by the online audience to be his closing theme. I wasn't chosen again. Could it be that there are too many people online and too many people requesting songs, so they can't see my message? It's over again today. After watching today's live broadcast, I realized that my posture yesterday was wrong. I can't learn the guitar. It's so hard. I haven't made any progress in the past 3 days. Yesterday, I practiced the whole afternoon and my fingers hurt. But now that I think about it, the sound of this old era instrument is pretty nice. Let's hire a private tutor, one-on-one. Fang Zhao is too awesome. He plays better than the private tutors my mom hired. I heard that the tutor my dad hired for me is also watching Fang Zhao's live stream. He's Fang Zhao's junior. Actually, after watching Fang Zhao for a while, I find him rather handsome, especially when he plays the guitar. His entire temperament is different. Who knows when Fang Zhao's next lesson at Qiyin will be? I'm going to ask him for an autograph. Count me in if you want to form a group to go to Qiyin. I feel like Fang Zhao is a very gentle person. The Silverlight team that had just finished a battle and had gone offline, hey, gentle my ass. Indeed, Fang Zhao usually seemed rather gentle and didn't have the hot-tempered temperament of his peers. Even Silver Wing's internal staff said that Fang Zhao's temperament was much better than when he had first joined the company. He wasn't as unapproachable as he had been in the past. Every time they heard such comments, the Silverlight team felt aggrieved. They were probably the only ones who knew of Fang Zhao's other side. It's almost the deadline, right? Dorian asked Jinro. Still no news. 3 more days. Jinro opened the rankings on Fiery Bird's official website and looked at the top 10 teams from each continent. The teams below the top 10 were still competing fiercely. Right now, we are in 7th place. If we make another push, we can definitely make it to 6th. If Boss is willing to sweep again, we might even be in the top 5, Milo said. However, they also knew that Fang Zhao didn't spend much time online now. Even when he did, he might not move with them. He was really slowly dropping out of the team. This was not hard to notice. Every day, the entertainment media was speculating on what kind of intense internal struggle was going on within the Silverlight team. They could not wait to fill in a 3-million-word article on internal strife. There were also many people waiting for a live after 500 years to fall from the throne of first place, but he was still sitting there. He was sitting pretty steadily. Didn't Wayne say that he would release the promotional video the moment he received Fiery Bird's invitation? Schwarzer was really looking forward to this. Although he hadn't seen the final product, he had seen some footage shot by Wang Tai. He had a feeling that the final product would definitely be especially cool. The deadline is on the 5th. We should receive the invitation on the 6th. The earliest we can see it is the 6th, Jinro said. Actually, Jinro himself had not expected that he would actually make it to Fiery Bird's annual conference when he had signed with Silver Wing. He didn't know if people from other continents still remembered him after he had left the entertainment circle for a few years. The team's promotional video had already been produced. Wayne had used Fang Zhao's piece for the soundtrack. Wayne had not expected that Fang Zhao would really be able to produce a piece that suited his tastes. Wang Tai also didn't go online to follow them. He went back to his old profession, but he rejected all the requests for him to investigate alive after 500 years. What a joke! He had just jumped out of the fire pit, and Fang Zhao had promised not to find trouble with him. If he still tried to stir up trouble now, wouldn't that be courting death? And after Wang Tai's rejection of requests was exposed, even more people were curious about alive after 500 years. What kind of person could make the dignified Yangju paparazzi king reject requests? A relative of the governor? Or one of Yenzhou's great aristocrats? The closer it got to the January 5th deadline, the more the media's focus was on gaming. Even if Yenzhou's 3 big entertainment companies were to release year-end blockbusters, it would be very difficult to steal the limelight from Fiery Bird's annual conference. Fiery Bird's annual conference was something that gaming fans all over the world were watching. The teams invited from Yangju represented Yangju, so they naturally had to pay attention, especially since they still had the #1 player on the global leaderboards. Until now, their identity was still unknown. Not just Yangju, but people from other continents were also watching. Finally, on January 5th, the deadline for Fiery Bird's rankings arrived. The Silverlight team qualified for the annual conference as Yenzhou's 6th-place team. What made the Silverlight team unhappy was that the Zebra Esports Club team that they had previously pushed down had also squeezed into the top 10. They were in 10th place, and they had even squeezed in a day before the deadline, pushing down the original 10th-place White Rhino Esports Club. Rumors had it that Zebra Esports Club had used underhanded methods to climb the leaderboards. For the past 2 days, fans of White Rhino Esports Club and Zebra Esports Club had been at loggerheads online. White Rhino fans cursed the Zebra team, despicable, treacherous, and shameless. Zebra fans retorted, "If you can do it, then do it. If you can't do it, then shut up. Even if you want to resort to tricks, that's still your ability. If you have the ability, then try it too." Both esports clubs had named themselves after extinct animals. This was a popular naming method in the new era. For example, the globally renowned Fiery Bird was a good example. Extinct animals, extinct plants, and so on would all become a reference for naming companies, streets, and shops. According to historical records, a rhinoceros was stronger than a zebra, but this time, many people joked that the zebra had kicked the rhinoceros down. News agencies that were watching the commotion even published a comic of a rhinoceros and a zebra fighting. On the 5th, Fang Zhao was teaching at the Qian Academy of Music. Because of the recent trend of retro music, the number of students attending his classes had increased. Furthermore, Fang Zhao's live broadcast program had increased his popularity. If not for the Qian Academy of Music tightening its security and restricting access, there might have been even more people crowding around Fang Zhao. Nowadays, Qian Academy of Music's current students and graduates were in high demand. Many Qian Academy of Music's current students would take on part-time jobs. Those who studied musical instruments would work in restaurants that required live performances, or they would post their information on online tutoring platforms to seek employment as a private tutor. In the past, no one would hire them even after a week of posting. After all, there were too few people studying musical instruments, and secondary school students simply did not have the patience. Now it was different. As long as they were from the Qian Academy of Music, they would be contacted within an hour. Nowadays, distance was no longer a problem in online distance education. Therefore, It wasn't just within Xi'an City. People from all over Yangzhou were paying close attention. Xi'an Academy of Music students' hourly pay tripled in a month. Now that retro music was on the rise, their hourly pay was going to rise again. Many people who did not specialize in musical instruments were green with envy and wished they could change majors. Those who were willing to pay a high price to hire a private tutor wanted to hire Fang Zhao, but they could not afford it. Fang Zhao did not have the time to be a part-time tutor. Furthermore, even if they were able to hire Fang Zhao, there was only one person. There were too many people who wanted to hire him, and there was simply not enough. Therefore, the opportunity was given to those current students or graduates who were willing to take on private tutors. And part-time tutors might not have the ability to teach, so they had to make up for it. Usually, they not only watched Fang Zhao's live broadcasts, but when Fang Zhao came to school to give a lecture, they would also fight to seek his guidance. Fang Zhao did not hide anything and would share some of his techniques and experiences with them. When old master Xue Jing found out, he was very gratified. He had originally wanted to bring Fang Zhao on another global lecture tour in the new year, but unfortunately, Fang Zhao had to serve in the military. After the end of the day's lessons, Fang Zhao received a call from Fiery Bird Headquarters sound effects team head, Hua Li. Have you seen the rankings? That newly formed team of yours isn't bad. They just formed and they already climbed to 6th place in Yangzhou. Hua Li laughed. The invitations for the annual gala have already been sent out from headquarters. Tomorrow, someone from the branch company will deliver them to you. Will you be attending the gala too? Of course. When the time comes, let's have a good chat. You little rascal, you are really too surprising. Hua Li had long known who the person behind the ID alive after 500 years was. Quite a few people in Fiery Bird's core management knew about it, but they had always kept it a secret, so the outside world had no way of getting any insider information from them. The gala is on the 8th, and there are still activities on the 9th and 10th. Usually, we arrive a day in advance. You have to make preparations. When we arrive, let's have a drink together. I will introduce you to a few friends from the composing circles. They have long told me that they want to get to know this rising star. I just don't know what kind of expression they will have when they find out about your other identity. Haha. Wayne had already informed Fang Zhao about the schedule. The gala was on the 8th, and on the 7th, they would set off for a hotel in Huangzhou that had been booked. The schedule was very tight. For the next few days, Fang Zhao would not be able to conduct live broadcasts or attend classes. Chapter 162. January 6th was the day all the big esports clubs made their presence known and dominated the headlines. Even Yenzhou's famous entertainment companies' press conferences or promotional activities for their New Year blockbusters would avoid this day. In the past, Silver Wing could only watch helplessly from the sidelines. Even if they were envious, there was nothing they could do. But this year, the entire Silver Wing gaming department was immersed in ecstasy and excitement. Silver Wing's gaming department had undergone a reform. Wayne recognized his own ambition. All the promotional channels had already been arranged. The promotional activities had not started yet because he was worried that something unexpected would happen before they were confirmed. After all, this was the first time something like this had happened. Even if they could enter the top 10 online, what if? What if Fiery Bird only wanted to enter the top 5 this year? Wouldn't that be an empty celebration? Only when he received the bright red invitation with the Fiery Bird logo did Wayne's apprehension settle down. What followed was an excitement he had never felt in the decades he had been in Silver Wing's gaming department. His fingers were trembling from excitement. He pressed a button and sent out the message he had prepared. We can begin. Silverlight would be the most important part of today's entertainment. The fact that the Big Five esports had received an invitation was not news at all. In the public's opinion, if they had not received an invitation, then that would have been news. Because of this, Silverwing 50 Polarlight, the Silverlight team that people referred to as Silverlight, which had entered the top 10 this year, was receiving a lot of attention today. The teams that had squeezed into the top 10 had already gone through countless rounds of publicity. The public had long lost interest, but Silverlight was different. They had only released their first promotional video today. Everyone knew that a promotional video was a chance to introduce oneself to the public and give the public the deepest impression they hoped for. However, before this, the Silverlight team had released too little information. The public's impression of them was limited to the members that had appeared at the press conference and the leaderboards. At noon, on Silverwing's live broadcast platform, official website, various online video channels, and on the big screens in the central plazas of more than 10 major cities, a 3-minute promotional video was simultaneously released online and offline. In the new era, this type of publicity film could not be too long, or the public would lose patience. If it was too short, the public would not be able to express everything they wanted, so 2 or 3 minutes was the most common length. When Silverwing's wing logo and the Silverlight team's tree logo appeared at the same time, many people who had been hurrying along stopped in their tracks and looked at the big screen in the plaza. The opening scene was the brief electronic sound of Battle of the Century being logged in, followed by a series of images that everyone was familiar with that carried a heavy sense of apocalypse. The shrill screams, the sound of blunt weapons hitting, the loud gunshots, the continuous explosions of buildings collapsing, and other sound effects were accompanied by a sudden buzzing sound that sounded like an electric current. It gradually rose up and brought up the atmosphere. The sound effects of the crash and explosion were quickly overtaken by the increasingly rhythmic electronic music. The concise melody repeated itself, and the heavily period of destruction-style image left the screen, revealing a wider field of view. In the video, it was a certain floor of an office building. Everyone inside was watching the scenes of Battle of the Century on the big screen in front of them. Their eyes were filled with anticipation, as if a seed had already sprouted in their hearts. In the video, a slightly chubby middle-aged man watching Battle of the Century turned around and strode out the door. Every step he took seemed to be on a drum beat, and the rhythm of the music and the movements of the characters were completely in sync. Following his movements, the scene continued to zoom out. Behind him, the word gaming department hung on the wall. Seeing this scene, the audience understood in their hearts. Oh, so this is the legendary Silver Wing gaming department. The electronic music that was not so gentle and somewhat stylized carried a kind of supernatural feeling, rising and falling. The extremely fine changes, the rich changes in tone, the wide range of pitch, the nimble changes in intensity, and the layers of electronic sound effects were gorgeous and compact. Connected by the rhythmic music, the rapid editing of the scene was not so boring. In the video, the chubby middle-aged man came to the elevator. Just then, the elevator stopped on the first floor. When the elevator door opened, there was another young man inside. The two of them nodded slightly in acknowledgement, both of them had serious expressions on their faces. Those who followed the Silverlight team were familiar with these two. Weren't these the manager of Silverwing's gaming department, Wayne, and the ridiculously young manager of the virtual projects department, Fang Zhao? On the screen, inside the descending elevator, the number displayed jumped from 51 to 50. The elevator doors opened, and Silverwing's 50th floor virtual projects department appeared before their eyes. The two stepped into the virtual projects department. Behind them, on the closed door, was the team's logo, a close-up of a simplified tree diagram. The image darkened, and a line of words appeared on the screen. Something is gradually losing control. As the image darkened and then brightened again, the music behind the image paused for a brief moment. There was no longer a large section of emotional melody. It was different from Fang Zhao's previous works. Under the electronic sound effects, the melody was grave and stern, simple yet not lacking in richness. The rhythm was gripping and powerful. The subtitles disappeared. In the dark background, someone pulled open a door. The light outside the door formed a sharp contrast with the dark background. Cold and warmth, darkness and light, it created a sense of prophecy and ritual. And the person who pulled open the door stood in the only spot of light in the darkness. His back was facing the screen. Just by standing there, he gave people the illusion that he was a hard, fierce, sharp, and silent blade. The image changed again. I've waited for so long. After the subtitles, In the image, a person in the middle of muscle strength training raised his head. His resolute gaze stared straight over, beads of sweat rolling down his face. As soon as they saw this person on the screen, veteran gaming fans knew who he was. Jinro, the former 2S captain who had been silent for 8 years. 8 years was long enough. After Jinro, it was Dorian, who was in physical training. Mo Li, who was training his reaction speed. Milo, who was doing balance training. August, Yu Zhongqing, Jake, Schwarzer, Zizi, Feltaha, Nibali, Mayman, Ounce. Every team member appeared one after another. Some were running, some were jumping, and some were training with others. In the camera, the lines of muscles were stretched, the tendons bulged, and the sweat dripped down. Coupled with the rhythm of the movements on the screen, the gradual sense of rhythm became stronger and stronger. The drumbeat, which resembled a heartbeat, gradually became faster and faster. It was hard to tell whether it was the soundtrack behind the screen or the sound system that came with the screen itself. The image transitioned. We have long been impatient. As the subtitles appeared, a new electronic sound intervened. The rhythm gradually increased, and the atmosphere became more and more ferocious. In the video, a data analyst in a work uniform was talking to the screen. A person in a white coat with a simple leaf pattern on the sleeves and an aurora icon on the chest was examining the bodies of the team members. There were also some people beside the team members, serving tea and water, handing clothes and towels. They came and went hurriedly, but methodically. Engineers checking the operation of the game machinery, analysts looking at the complex diagrams and data on the screen. This was the first time the Silverlight assistant team, the medical team, and the various teams behind the scenes appeared together. Following the gradually rising momentum of the music, the engineers gave an OK sign, the head of the medical team nodded, and the assistants put on their battle uniforms. After putting on their battle uniforms, the team members walked briskly to a room. The door with the tree logo opened, and a row of Fiery Bird's 9th generation upgraded consoles arranged in a semicircle practically occupied the entire screen. Under the illumination of the lights, the exterior of the machines reflected a frightening luster. The Fiery Bird logo on the machines looked like it was about to ignite at any moment. The team members entered the room one by one, and the gaming cabin doors closed one after another. The camera panned back, and at some point, a white humanoid machine was already standing in front. The 10th generation console. Seeing this scene, many people stared wide-eyed. Silver Wing still had a second 10th generation console? Or could it be that the original one had been taken out for someone else to use? However, at this moment, the audience no longer had the time to think too deeply. Amidst the music invading their ears, the ferocious attack of the drumbeat and noise continued to advance, as if foreshadowing the arrival of an uncontrollable madness. The person wearing the 10th generation raised a hand and waved it down. It was as if he was conveying an order. Almost at the same time, the start buttons on all the 9th generation consoles lit up at the same time. On the screen, the electric current seemed to pass through the neurons, passing through matter and space. Everything seemed to turn into data, and the language and symbols belonging to the program ran rampant in the virtual world. The screen gradually darkened, but at this moment, the hurried music suddenly stopped. The soundless silence brought with it a strange kind of emotional tension, and even the air seemed to be stuck together. Bang! The sound of glass shattering under the powerful impact struck the heart. The violence that followed the silence increased the impact on the auditory nerves by a full 10 times. Everything completely exploded. The people who had charged into the building from the outside were armed with firearms. They were well trained and coordinated, like divine soldiers descending from the sky. The firearms flashed by quickly. From the point of view of the gunman, the camera zoomed in on a completely abnormal malevolent face. Bang! Right between the eyebrows. Bang bang bang! Blood-colored bullet marks on the walls, shattered glass, fallen corpses, dangling and swaying chandeliers, messy corridors. The sound system was perfectly integrated into the music, and under the special sound effects, it was extremely penetrating, as if it wanted to penetrate the nerves of the listener. There is nothing that can stop us. The scene changed rapidly, from indoors to outdoors, from the city to the suburbs. The sparks of bullets, dripping blood, flying severed limbs. The sound of sharp blades tearing through flesh, the sound of blunt weapons colliding with flesh, the anguished and angry roars of beasts, the sound of corpses falling to the ground. The camera showed these bloody battles of life and death through these violent scenes. Amidst the overwhelming and shocking action scenes, he told the audience everything that happened. Blood and violence. The combination of these two always made people tremble with fear. However, behind these scenes was the powerful and fast-paced music and sound effects. This clearly explained the tone and atmosphere of the video from the beginning. This was the background of the period of destruction. This was the battle for humanity's survival. Violence and blood, but behind this was full of hope. The fast-paced editing sped up the narration of the violent scenes. The audience had no time to carefully ponder the flashing images, but they could feel the flashing scenes tickling their nerves time and time again. The sound editing techniques of the music and sound effects perfectly matched the rhythm of the changing scenes. It also made the audience more receptive to the violent and bloody scenes. They were immersed in the moving images that constantly impacted their vision and hearing, and they received the information conveyed by the video. In the context of the meticulously woven music and the special filming techniques, the violent and bloody scenes appeared exquisite, aesthetically pleasing, and gorgeous to the point of being shocking. The feeling it gave the audience was not as heavy. Instead, it was strangely infectious and shocking. This was a typical production technique for entertainment, and it was also more in line with the tastes and preferences of the fast food culture. At the end of the changing scene, the speeding truck charged straight at an enormous beast. Under the gloomy sky, tracer bullets arced through the air, creating dense streaks of light as they struck the sealed fuel tank of the truck. The flames of the explosion brought with it a deafening roar, ending with the high-pitched music. "We are the kings of the battlefield." The ending scene showed the main members of the Silverlight team gathered together in their combat uniforms. Some of them were wearing helmets, while others were not. As the scene finally stopped, so did the music. In the lower right corner of the scene, the Silver Wing logo and the Silverlight Tree logo appeared once again. The first minute and a half of the 3-minute video introduced the team members and the team. The second minute and a half were all clips of the explosive scenes in the game. Fang Zhao had composed the accompaniment music. The composition and arrangement followed his usual grand and majestic style. This was the technique he was best at. Even when he was experimenting with new elements and styles, he had not given up on this point. To better match the scene and the accompanying sound system, Fang Zhao had reduced the melody of the accompaniment music when composing compared to his previous work, but he had maintained a strong rhythm. This was a new attempt. It was in line with what Wayne had said about a more direct and powerful explosion, but it also had some traces of the Academy's meticulous craftsmanship. People who weren't used to electronic sounds and effects would find the noise annoying, but for people in the new era who had long since gotten used to this kind of noise, they could appreciate the aesthetics of noise that belonged to this era. They were immersed in the ups and downs of the music, unable to extricate themselves. And in the last minute and a half of the video, there were intense gunfights, hand-to-hand combat, explosions, and other explosive scenes of war. Those shots of bullets bursting out and blood splattering were all real in-game footage without post-production editing. It was extremely realistic and infectious. Combined with the sound effects, the impact on the senses of the audience was extremely strong. There was no display of misery or emotion. There was no excessive emphasis on the hard work and suffering of the esports players behind the scenes. Acting too much was just pretentious. This video was not the kind of inspirational style that other esports clubs were used to. Instead, it portrayed a group of extraordinary, well-trained, brave, and valiant superhuman heroes. This was also the fastest way for Silver Wing to break into this market, and the effect shown to the public was in line with Silver Wing's expectations. Online. Oh my God! Are these people from Silverlight going to heaven? Are these esports players? Are they the saviors? Slightly arrogant. I thought I was watching a blockbuster. I suddenly feel so good playing games at Silver Wing, Chian City Central Plaza. A middle-aged man in a business suit carrying a briefcase, who was staring at the big screen, withdrew his gaze from the screen and looked around before calling out to the young man closest to him. "Excuse me, I would like to ask, that trailer just now, which Silver Wing New Year blockbuster is it? When is it going to be released?" "Ah!" The young man was stunned. After regaining his wits and understanding what the other party was referring to, he smiled and said, "That wasn't a movie trailer just now. It was a promotional video for a gaming team." The middle-aged man had a face full of disbelief. "You mean, those people just now are actually esports players playing games?" "Oh, that's right. Did you see that tree logo just now? That's the logo of a gaming team formed jointly by Silver Wing's gaming and virtual projects departments. Nowadays, gaming promotions are even more exciting than the trailers for blockbusters." The middle-aged man sighed. He did not play games, but he liked to watch movies. However, after watching the promotional video just now, he was a little interested in this team. Chapter 163. Wayne's goals in producing this promotional video were, firstly, to publicize the Silverwing 50 Polarlight team. Secondly, it was to advertise and let more people know that they were not just cashing in, but a genuine, professional team. The goal was to attract even more talent. To make this project bigger and to have more lasting development, it was necessary to attract new talents, especially after Fang Zhao left for military service. To prevent the team's ranking from dropping, they had to add even more talents. This time, they could use this opportunity to pull in a wave of popularity. Wayne wanted to tell those esports athletes who wanted to jump ship or had yet to find a new employer, "Come here, you don't have to do anything else. You don't have to think about what to eat for 3 meals a day, don't have to worry about your health, don't have to worry about any material worries, because all of this will be done by a professional team. Come here and just play the game to your heart's content." Although this Silverlight team had only been established for a short period of time, the conditions that could move people were already sufficient. First, they had the ability. Not to mention alive after 500 years, this young team had even successfully obtained an invitation to this year's Fiery Bird annual conference. They had potential and a bright future. Second, they had money. With the backing of an entertainment giant like Silver Wing, they did not lack funds. Whether it was logistics or equipment, they definitely did not lose to those veteran esports club. And after this promotional video was released, Silver Wing's publicity department would also push it from behind the scenes. Just as Wayne hoped, following the release of their first promotional video, the public's attention was on them. On the internet, both professional and non-professional gamers were in a heated discussion, blinding the eyes of the 9th generation and 10th generation. In terms of equipment, they are already about the same as the Big Five. Let's dig up the average monthly salary of the Silverlight team. I want to join the Silverlight team. Is it too late? Is Silver Wing going to be Yenzhou's number 6? I just want to know which one of them is alive after 500 years. The one using the 10th generation is definitely him, but I don't know who it is. He still hasn't shown himself. The silhouette that appeared in front of Jinro in the promotional video should be him, but I can't see his face clearly. I don't know if it was filmed in-game or in real life. Silver Wing has 2 10th generation consoles. All I know is that Jinro's boss, Fang Zhao, has one. Perhaps alive after 500 years is Fang Zhao. After all, Fang Zhao also has a 10th generation console. Didn't he get into a fight a while back? I heard that he defeated quite a few people single-handedly. With such strong combat power, it might be him. As soon as that netizen finished speaking, someone replied, "Ha ha 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 ha. I'm laughing so hard. Someone like Fang Zhao? That's obviously not the case. As someone who was born and raised in District 79 and followed the Silverlight team on the run, I observed them carefully. Fang Zhao's temperament is different, so we can eliminate him. The one who said that one person beat several people in a nightclub fight. There's no video and no truth. It's all a rumor. How could you believe such nonsense? Besides, even if it was true, how could fighting be the same as playing a game? In any case, I don't have a good impression of Fang Zhao. I heard that he has always been suppressing Jinro and the others. How sinister. The brother in front, you also know that rumors can't be trusted. Not a single member of the Silverlight team has said that Fang Zhao is suppressing them. It's just some people spreading rumors. Also, looking at Fang Zhao's style of music, he doesn't seem like a sinister and cunning character. You may know a person for a long time, but you don't know his heart. Wind from an empty cave might not be without reason. One look and you can tell that Fang Zhao is the kind of person who doesn't know anything other than composing music. Fang Zhao is just a composer. Silver Wing let him be the leader of the Silverlight team because he brought up the virtual projects department. Actually, he is just a layman. I've never heard of him playing games before. He has a backer. It's not like it's anything rare. Is it a tragedy of the industry or the shamelessness of capitalists for a layman to lead an expert? That means that Fang Zhao might have taken out his 10th generation console to let someone else use it. Other than the 10th generation console displayed by the Fiery Bird branch company in Yangzhou, there are only 8 10th generation consoles. Silver Wing can't possibly have 2. The question comes back to it. In that case, who exactly is alive after 500 years? Did anyone notice that there is still one person who didn't show his face in the promotional video? Jinro and the others had seen the discussions online. As the youngest member of the team, Schwartz's experience was limited. At the start, when the promotional video had been released, he had sat there and laughed foolishly at the comments online. When he had watched the promotional video, he had felt like an actor watching his first movie. He had felt a little bashful and a little pleased with himself. But towards the end, when more and more people guessed alive after 500 years' true identity, he could no longer laugh. Guessing was guessing, but why did it start flaming Fang Zhao? Schwarzer carefully looked at Fang Zhao. Only when he did not see any signs of Fang Zhao getting angry did he relax. After all, if he was the one being doubted and being pinned with some groundless accusations, he would definitely not be happy. Dorian, who was texting someone, saw this and smiled at Schwarzer. Don't pay too much attention to the comments online. You will get used to it when you encounter more things in the future. I'm just thinking about how they will react when they find out the truth. Besides discussing the identities of the characters in the promotional video and guessing who alive after 500 years really was, there were also many online gamers who conducted in-depth analysis of the short scenes that had appeared in the promotional video. I sorted out the gun models that appeared in the promotional video. If I hadn't sorted them out, I wouldn't have known. Silverlight's equipment isn't bad. I just don't know if they made it themselves or bought it from a studio. When I saw the scene at the end of the promotional video where the truck exploded, I even specially tried to follow the trend and record a scene of someone shooting up the truck and walking toward the camera with their back facing the flames. In the end, the truck didn't explode even after being shot full of holes in the fuel tank. Who succeeded? Share your experience. Very quickly, there were technical emperors who started researching how to shoot up the fuel tank like in the promotional video and produce the desired explosion. There were also people who copied the scene in the promotional video where they broke through the window and got themselves seriously injured. Many people learned how to drift or drive while fighting monsters. Quite a few people tasted the bitter fruit. In the end, gamers understood that those cool scenes and actions were really not something anyone could replicate. It was also because they understood the difficulty that more and more gamers started paying attention to the Silverlight team. All sorts of factors led to a strange scene. This year's 6th-ranked Silverlight team received more attention than the other 9 teams. In the global gaming magazine Rising Dragon, the Silverlight team was always ranked in the top 3 in terms of attention, surpassing many established esports clubs. This was also part of Wayne's plan. The reason he had kept Fang Zhao's identity a secret was to whet the appetite of the masses. This way, they could garner more attention, and with more attention, their reputation would grow. On January 6th, the entire Silverlight team was on holiday and went home to pack. On January 7th, a flying transport bearing the Silver Wing insignia left Qian City, carrying over 100 people. Zhu Wen and the others from the Polar Light team of the virtual reality project had also received permission to tag along. It wasn't just them. The gaming department had also been allocated spots. The invitation letter had a limit of 100 people, so besides the medical staff, assistants, managers, and other team members, there were also people from other departments tagging along. Some were in charge of publicity, some were in charge of external communications, and some were in charge of team members' safety. On the flying transport, Wayne was explaining to Fang Zhao. Due to the promotion of the first promotional video, the accompanying music had also become known to the masses. This time, the electronic style was especially in line with the mainstream public's aesthetics. A few businesses took a liking to it upon hearing it and contacted Silver Wing to purchase the rights. The price offered was reasonable, and they were willing to postpone the use for a month. After all, the influence of the promotional video had a time limit. Nowadays, with the advanced internet, the popularity of the promotional video would plummet in a week. In a month, it would more or less cool down. Other people could use the accompanying music for other purposes. Logically speaking, it was fine. However, Silver Wing had different opinions, especially Wayne, who strongly objected when he found out. I was still talking to the copyright department this morning. They wanted to sell it, but I didn't let them. If they don't give up, they will probably contact you and persuade you to agree. Fang Zhao, I'm not trying to cut off your source of income. I'm just telling you about the drawbacks. In the cabin, the people closest to Wayne and Fang Zhao were the main team members. They knew that Fang Zhao's songs could sell for a lot of money, and they had just heard Wayne say that someone wanted to purchase the rights to the promotional videos accompanying music. Just as they were lamenting that Fang Zhao could rake in a small fortune, they heard Wayne trying to persuade Fang Zhao not to sell it. Curious, they pricked up their ears to listen. Wayne did not purposely avoid them. He continued explaining, if it was the government or some other gaming company or film company that wanted to purchase it, I wouldn't jump out to stop them. For example, when the Yangzhou military used the third movement of the 100-year period of destruction in their promotional video, the results were great. Everyone benefited, so there was no need to stop them. But this time, it was different. The owner of a large supermarket chain wanted to buy it. But according to my experience and understanding of them, with their personality, they would usually use this type of music only when they were having an event. The flow of people there is also very high. If you let everyone get used to it and develop a conditioned reflex, every time they hear that song of yours, they won't think of the might of the Silverlight team, but of the sale, the sale, the sale. Clearance, clearance, clearance. Rush to buy, go all out, go all out. Are you guys willing? Everyone. Absolutely not. The people in the copyright department did not think much of it. After all, after a month, the promotional video would not have much influence. Perhaps no one would pay attention to it anymore, so they might as well sell it for a little more money. But Wayne felt that this might cause the team to be ridiculed. He was on the road to realizing his ambitions, and Wayne would never do something that would cause trouble for himself. No matter how much money the other party offered, he would not agree. That was why he was trying to persuade Fang Zhao. As a contracted composer, Fang Zhao did not completely belong to him. The company could sell it, but Fang Zhao had to agree. Since he could not persuade the people in the copyright department, Wayne tried to persuade Fang Zhao directly. It's not just this time, Fang Zhao. Although I have always been in charge of the gaming department, I have seen and experienced many things. Every year, there are many cases of a good song being forcefully led astray by the buyer. If you encounter similar situations in the future, you have to be careful. If you use it wrongly, the power of the original image left behind by the audience will crumble under the influence of people with ulterior motives, Wayne said. Fang Zhao listened to Wayne's advice seriously and nodded. I understand. Actually, even if Wayne had not said anything, Fang Zhao would not have casually sold his own work. Back when the Leiju side had wanted to purchase the rights to use a certain movement of the 100-year period of destruction series, Fang Zhao had given them some suggestions. He had specific requirements for which part of the film and how long it should be used. Only when he got Fang Zhao's reply did Wayne relax. Jinro and the others also breathed a sigh of relief. They did not need to be associated with a supermarket sale. Oh, right, I almost forgot to ask you. Wayne remembered something and asked Fang Zhao, did you get your driver's license? I did. You got your flying car and flying transport licenses? That's good. As a celebrity, it is better to have your own driving license. After all, bodyguards are not by your side at all times. If you are surrounded by fans, you can find a way to escape in the nearest shared flying car. Guangzhou's entertainment atmosphere is heavier than Yenzhou's, and there are many people watching you. So, after your identity is exposed, you either don't go out or be extra careful when you do. By the time they reached Huangzhou Imperial City, it was already afternoon. It was not that the flight from Yangzhou took too long. Given the speed of the new era flying transport, it would not take that long to get from Qian City to Imperial City. However, there were more inspections after entering Huangzhou, especially in Imperial City, which was even stricter. Stopping and stopping, they had already wasted the afternoon. Imperial City was the name of the city. It was the political, financial, and cultural center of Huangzhou. At the same time, it was also where the Union government headquarters was located. Fiery Bird's headquarters was set up in the north of Imperial City. The hotel arranged for them was near the Fiery Bird headquarters building and belonged to Fiery Bird. The flying transport landed in the designated area, and they had to walk to the hotel from there. It was only a distance of about 100 meters, not too far. However, the moment they stepped off the flying transport, they felt the atmosphere change. The road from the airport to the hotel was about 100 meters long, and the sides were filled with media in filming equipment. As soon as they had seen the silver wing insignia on the flying transport, the media from every continent had been excited. It was not the pursuit and interception of the virtual world in a game, but the dazzling lights of reality. The mood was also completely different from the irritation and disgust of the game. Live broadcast vehicles with the logos of famous television stations from every continent and small flying transport filming in the air were frantically filming in the area allocated to the media. There was no clicking sound from the old era's filming equipment, but there was the unique sound of their operation, as if they were radiating electric currents. The sound of one machine was not loud, but what about hundreds of them? The air was filled with restless particles. The focus of the machines brought attention from all over the world, forming a formless pressure that filled the surroundings. Even though they had already been informed of what they would encounter on the way here. Even though they had seen many videos of previous annual conferences. But when they were actually standing here, many people were so nervous that they did not know what to do with their hands. Jinro, Dorian, and the others had been through a lot, so they could still be considered calm. Jinro was not nervous at all, but the rest of the team was different. Even Schwarzer, who had been chattering and laughing in the flying transport, did not know how to react. All he could do was put on a taut face, but deep down, he was incomparably excited. If he had a tail, he would have wagged it with all his might. This was the first time he had truly realized that he had become a star. Even though he was just a small star that did not stand out among the crowd. Everyone's reactions were captured by the filming equipment and transmitted to every continent. Chapter 164. It was only after they entered the hotel that Schwarzer and the others finally relaxed. Then, they rubbed their stiff facial muscles in distress, wondering if their tense expressions had been too depressing. Those were the media from every continent they were talking about. There were already people waiting in the lobby. Seeing the Silverlight Team's tree logo, they knew which team it was. After verifying their identities, the team leader was allowed to choose the floor. Completely at random, Wayne stepped forward and pressed a button. Floor 62. Over 100 teams, each team on one floor. Each floor was equipped with game consoles, sound and video equipment, and a small conference room. Fortunately, there were many elevators as well. However, when they were in the elevator, regardless of which floor they were from, when people saw the tree emblem on them, they would size them up as though they were looking at rare objects. The questions they asked could be summed up in 2 sentences. The first sentence was, "Are you guys from Silverwing 50 Polar Light?" The second sentence was, "Is alive after 500 years here?" Which one is it? Regarding these curious sizing up and questions, the Silverlight team members basically replied with yes, his here, and a mysterious smile. After arriving on the 62nd floor, Wayne started assigning rooms. 2 people shared a room. After ordering their meals, they gathered for a small meeting. The main point was to emphasize the rules here. This was their first time participating. Not only were Schwarzer and the other young team members nervous, even Wayne himself was nervous. All right, that's all I have to say. If you have any questions, you can ask Jinro and Dorian. They have experience. Wayne wiped the sweat off his forehead. The remaining time was free time. Many teams had already arrived at the hotel. Those who knew people could interact with them or head to the hotel's entertainment venues to relax. As a bodyguard, Zhuoyu naturally shared a room with Fang Zhao. This time, Zhuoyu's mission was very important. Once Fang Zhao's identity was exposed, he would be even busier. He had to prevent fans and reporters from chasing and intercepting him. Just as he put down his luggage, Fang Zhao received a call from Fiery Bird sound effects team leader, Hua Li. I just received news that you guys have arrived. Have you finished packing? If you are, come out for a chat. Head straight to the 5th floor. I'll introduce you to a few people. Hua Li seemed to be chatting with someone, but he seemed to be in a good mood. All right, I'll head over now. Take the elevator in the northernmost corner. I'll give you temporary access so that you won't have to squeeze with the others. There are quite a lot of people today, Hua Li said. After ending the call, Fang Zhao looked at the messages in the team chat. Jinro and the others prepared to go to the 6th floor. The 6th floor was also a leisure area. The difference was that the 6th floor was more suitable for esports players. After reading the news, Fang Zhao told Zhuoyu, you go with them. You don't have to worry about me. Let me know if there's anything. I'll go up directly. Zhuoyu also knew that the person who had invited Fang Zhao was someone from Fiery Bird's headquarters. In Fiery Bird's own territory, there would not be much trouble. After thinking about it, he nodded and said, okay, boss. I'll let you know if there's anything. Following Hua Li's instructions, Fang Zhao found an elevator in a corner and went straight to the 5th floor. He did not meet anyone along the way. This elevator was probably reserved for internal personnel. When Fang Zhao took it, there was no one else. The 5th floor was a casual restaurant. The decor was more artistic, and there were some paintings hanging on the walls. They were reproductions of antique paintings from the old era. The real ones were kept in Fiery Bird's own collection room and would not be hung in a place like this. The people on this floor did not talk much about gaming techniques. They had a cooperative relationship with Fiery Bird, but they were not esports players. Some were artists, designers, and some were composers, such as the people who had composed the background music for Battle of the Century. When Fang Zhao went over, Hua Li was chatting with a rather skinny person of average height. Perhaps it was because he had been drinking or because he was chatting excitedly, but his face was a little red. Hey, Fang Zhao, over here. Hua Li got up and pulled Fang Zhao over. Come, let me introduce you. This is Gao Se. Just like you, he graduated from Qian Academy of Music and is now an associate professor at Huangju Institute of Art's Composition Department. This time, the soundtrack for Battle of the Century also included 2 of his pieces. Other games have also used his pieces. Thinking back, when we first worked together, old Gao was still an assistant professor. Yes, that was my 4th year at Huangju Institute of Art. Gao Se was not at all repulsed by Hua Li mentioning his time as an assistant professor. Instead, he felt a little pleased. Fang Zhao knew that although the title of an assistant professor was not considered high, in Huangju, the privileges and benefits of an assistant professor were still very good. Some of their subordinates could even mentor doctoral students. In a place like Huangju, where competition was extremely intense, assistant professors were also not ordinary. Hua Li did not have any intention of belittling Gao Se when he said this. Furthermore, Gao Se was already an associate professor. In Huangju, it was already rare for someone of Gao Se's age to become an associate professor. Without sufficient results, there was no way he could be promoted. Hua Li was about to introduce Fang Zhao to Gao Se when he saw Gao Se laugh heartily. Fang Zhao, I know you. I often hear Ming Kang and the others mention you. The last time old Shui came to Huangju, I caught a glimpse of you from afar. We didn't get to talk. This time, we have to have a good chat. Since they were all from the same Chuyin branch, there was naturally a mutual connection. Gao Se knew quite a bit about Fang Zhao. Gao Se sized up Fang Zhao with a satisfied look in his eyes. Fang Zhao had already achieved so much at such a young age. He was neither arrogant nor impetuous, and he had a steady temperament. It was no wonder that Ming Kang and Hua Li were full of praise when they mentioned him. Geniuses were more or less arrogant. This was understandable, but in certain situations, this sort of arrogance had to be kept in check. Fang Zhao had come to Huangju once, during Xuejing's global lecture tour. However, that time, Fang Zhao had only been an extra. He had not been the main character and could not even be considered an important supporting character. In the eyes of many people, during that global lecture tour, Fang Zhao had just been Xuejing's little follower. He had just walked through the motions and become familiar. Although Fang Zhao's few works had garnered quite a lot of commercial profits, had received the affirmation of many professionals, and had been sought after by some students, in this global circle, he really could not be considered very famous. If one were to pick any of these people who had collaborated with Fiery Bird and had been invited, the various awards and achievements listed in their files would not necessarily be enough to finish flipping through 10 pages. I was just talking to old Gao about you and wanted to persuade you to come to Huangju. Hua Li fished out a bottle of wine from his bag. This is from my personal collection. Have a taste. Hua Li had called Fang Zhao over today for 2 reasons. One was to introduce Fang Zhao to some seniors in the music circles. These people who had collaborated with Fiery Bird and had been invited over might not be known by the public, but in the circles of composers and composers, they were rather well known. Understanding more would also be beneficial to Fang Zhao. After Fang Zhao sat down, he listened as Gao Se boasted about his own achievements, how many awards he had won, how many high-class performances he had participated in, and so on. He even flaunted the white metal plate hanging from his neck. This was a small medal. Galaxy medal? Fang Zhao asked. Fang Zhao still knew about this. The highest award in the new genre, the Galaxy Awards. Regardless of whether it was composition, acting, song and dance, or painting, sculpting, there was no artist who did not want to win a Galaxy medal. Haha, that's right. But it's not the Galaxy World Medal. It's just the Galaxy Supernova Medal. Although it was just the Galaxy Supernova Medal, Gao Se was obviously pleased with himself when he mentioned it. Hua Li looked enviously at the small medal hanging from Gao Se's neck and retracted his gaze helplessly. If he had chosen this path, he was destined to miss out on the Galaxy Awards. Although in terms of income, he beat more than 90% of the people on this floor, in terms of artistic achievements, 99% could beat him. Hua Li was willing to help Fang Zhao because he thought highly of Fang Zhao and wanted to sow good karma before Fang Zhao became famous. The Galaxy Supernova Medal was awarded to young artists with sufficient achievements. In the new era, 50 or 60 years old was considered young. When old Gao received this medal, he was only 40, right? Hua Li asked. No, number 50. Almost 50. 49.5 when I was almost 50. Hee. I remember clearly that after receiving this medal, I was given a tenured teaching chair by Huangju Institute of Art. I could be considered to have established myself in Huangju. Half a year later, on my birthday, I was promoted to associate professor. Gao Se's face was glowing. He was proud and a little emotional. His fingers carefully rubbed the small medal he was wearing. Old Shui also has a Supernova medal and a Nebula medal. I feel that Old Shui will very likely receive a world medal, Gao Se said reverently. The Supernova medal was awarded to young artists, while the Nebula medal, which was also under the Galaxy Awards, was similar to a Lifetime Achievement Award. And now, Xuejing was still working so hard. He wanted to achieve even more and make even more contributions so that he could receive a Galaxy World Medal, a medal that truly shone at the top of the industry. Perhaps it was because of the intense competition that he had to endure on a daily basis. Gaose had regained some of his former high-spirited and vigorous spirit and was in the mood to give pointers to the younger generation. Although Gaose liked to show off and put on the airs of an elder in front of Fang Zhao, his intentions were still good and he was willing to speak some truth to Fang Zhao. He hoped that Fang Zhao could take the academic path and not be overly swayed by the commercialized and monetized market. Don't be blinded by the small profits in front of you. Don't be anxious. Take it one step at a time. Take it slow and steady. Don't listen to the nonsense of those who talk all day long. Those people have lofty aspirations, but their efforts cannot keep up with their ambitions. They won't go far. In our line of work, we have to endure. Many people lose themselves when trying to find a balance between artistic and commercial value. Fang Zhao, don't learn from them. If you ever have a problem, you can look for old Shui and have a chat. After all, old Shui is an experienced man. He has high hopes for you. If you are willing to ask, he will surely be more than happy to answer. If old Shui isn't around, you can look for Ming Kang. That fellow's mentality is much better now. I heard that his son's treatment is also very optimistic. Gaose probably had too much to drink and was in a good mood, so he said a lot. In summary, he said, "Young man, work hard. I have high hopes for you. When you have accumulated enough experience, your uncles will bring you along to show off and fly." Hua Li did not interrupt. Initially, he had intended to rope Fang Zhao into his own company or the companies of a few friends, but after seeing Xue Jing bring Fang Zhao on his global lecture tour, he gave up on the idea. He knew that Xue Jing, Ming Kang, and the other academics hoped that Fang Zhao could take the academic path and not get too involved in the commercialized market. Youngsters at this age were too easily swayed by money. The world medal was just a resplendent but illusory dream in Hua Li's heart. When he woke up, it would be too late. There was simply no way he could obtain it. But would Fang Zhao be able to obtain it in the future? As long as he maintained his standards, the supernova medal should not be too difficult. But the world medal? Hua Li was not optimistic. However, even if Fang Zhao could really obtain the world medal, it would surely be more than 100 years later. If he was still alive by then, perhaps he would already be older than Xue Jing and would have retired long ago. After chatting on and on for half an hour, Gaose left because of a phone call. An old friend who had also been invited was looking for him. After Gaose left, Hua Li had intended to introduce a few more people to Fang Zhao, but the bracelet on Fang Zhao's wrist indicated an urgent message. He took a look. The sender was Zhuo Yu. Hua Li saw Fang Zhao frown and asked, "What's the matter?" Fang Zhao pointed above his head. "There's some trouble upstairs." Hua Li understood. Above them was the 6th floor, the place where esports athletes gathered and socialized. "All right, you go first. I'll find someone to chat with. There are quite a few old friends here. Look for me when you come down. I should be here all the way until nightfall." Upstairs. What should have been a noisy environment was now rather quiet. There were many people, esports athletes from various continents. But at this moment, whether they were joking around or cooped up in a corner playing games or watching movies, all of them were focused on one place. Over 10 members of the Silverlight team were there. Zhuo Yu was at a loss. His hands were itching to beat someone up. Standing in front of Zhuo Yu, Jinro, and the others was an esports team from Leiju. And the one leading this team was an arrogant young man. His face was filled with undisguised arrogance and conceit. He was wearing a motorcycle suit and Martin boots. He was dressed in a retro style. The bright yellow letters on his clothes were so elegant that they looked like they were about to fly. In Zhuo Yu's mind, the words Zaro Reno were automatically translated into 3 glittering words: not a good person, a foolish look that deserved a spanking. The moment Zhuo Yu saw this young master, he sent Fang Zhao a text. This person had ill intentions. He had no way of controlling the situation. He wanted to make a move, but he could not afford to offend the descendant of a founding-era great general. When the other party walked over, Zhuo Yu's eyelids kept twitching. Young Master Zaro, who had been labeled not a good person, walked straight up to Zhuoyu. His gaze swept over Zhuoyu like he was looking at a commodity. He raised his chin and said, "You are that alive after 500 years who has dominated the leaderboards until now?" Without waiting for Zhuoyu to reply, the other party threw another line. 100 million. Annual salary. Leave Silver Wing and join our wireless esports club. How about that? Zhuoyu. Boss, hurry up. I'm afraid I won't be able to control my mouth. Chapter 165. In Leiju, whenever Zaro Reno's silk pants were mentioned, many people would have a toothache and a headache. They looked down on Zaro's way of doing things, but they couldn't do anything about him. For example, this time, the release of Battle of the Century had stirred Zaro's heart. He hadn't been able to make it to the gaming gala 10 years ago. After all, he had been young then and hadn't passed Fiery Bird's age limit. His funds had been limited, and he hadn't been able to put his thoughts into action. Now it was different. He didn't have a gaming company or esports club, so he could just buy it. Throw money at it. But the big esports clubs in Leiju were on guard against him and simply wouldn't let him interfere. Thus, Zaro got angry and used his usual method of throwing money at people to poach. Not only from Leiju, but from other continents as well. Although Zaro was unreliable in his work, the group of people under him who were paid extremely high salaries were very capable. They had helped him poach quite a number of people with genuine talent and knowledge. Other than Silverlight, the other team that had received an invitation to the gala this year was the Wireless Esports Club under Zaro's wing, Zaro. The surname Reno was a gold-lettered signboard in Leiju. Outside of Leiju, it was equally influential. Even people who didn't pay attention would think twice when they saw this surname. Now, Zaro wanted to poach people again, and his target was alive after 500 years, who was ranked first on the leaderboards. Even if other esports clubs had intentions of poaching people, they hesitated when they saw Zaro's attitude. When it came to throwing money at people to poach, they really couldn't compare to this guy. Zaro was also full of confidence. Poaching people was open and above board. After all, this daddy here has money. Willful. All eyes were on Zhuoyu. No matter how strong his mental fortitude was, Zhuoyu still felt the pressure. Taking a deep breath, Zhuoyu was about to tell this idiot who deserved a beating that he had mistaken him for someone else, but just as he opened his mouth, Jinro elbowed him. "Boss is here." Hearing that Fang Zhao had arrived, Zhuoyu heaved a sigh of relief, as did the rest of the team. Being surrounded by so many people was not something to be happy about. What happened? Fang Zhao pushed aside the people in front of him and walked over. "It's like this." Zhuoyu whispered what had just happened. Zhuoyu had originally followed Jinro and the others to the 6th floor to relax. Jinro, Dorian, and the others were old rivals and old friends, so Zhuoyu could introduce the team's newcomers to the older generation. Zhuoyu had no interest in such things. He wasn't a professional gamer. He was just tagging along. When Fang Zhao played, he joined in the fun. Although he was a bodyguard, he was not inferior to others. He would only act like a bodyguard in front of Fang Zhao. When he was not at Fang Zhao's side, he still had the arrogance of a Special Forces member. Zhuoyu was also considered a member of the team. Although, like Fang Zhao, he did not spend much time online, his ability was there. Furthermore, when Fang Zhao was not online, even if Zhuoyu was not by his side, he would still teach them a few things. If Fang Zhao was their instructor, then Zhuoyu was their assistant instructor. That was why his tone was different from the way he spoke to the other members. Zhuoyu sat in his seat and did not move, but he realized that many people around him were paying attention to him. Schwarzer ran one round with Jinro before returning to chat with Zhuoyu about the gossip he had heard from esports athletes from other continents, such as how many gaming superstars would be attending the banquet tomorrow. Just as he was talking excitedly, his vision blurred, and a hand appeared in front of Schwarzer in a flash, firmly catching the orange that was hurled at him. After that, it was Zaro and the others who came over. Seeing that the situation was not right, Jinro and the others hurried back. The surrounding people also had their attention on this group of people, watching the show and waiting for answers. This time, there was a Silver Wing board member and a deputy CEO among the group, but the higher-ups had their own interactions and would not mingle with them. Wayne had just gone to socialize with a few Huangju Entertainment Company executives. Only Fang Zhao had rushed over in time. Anyone who investigated the Silverlight team would not be unfamiliar with Fang Zhao. That orange was thrown by them. It seemed like a test, Zhuoyu said. Test what? Of course it was to test whether Zhuoyu was alive after 500 years or not. Since they could not get an answer, they might as well try. Excluding the other members of the Silverlight team, the only suspicious person was the unidentified Zhuoyu. While Zhuoyu was speaking to Fang Zhao, Zaro sized up Fang Zhao and then asked his agent beside him, "Who is this? He looks a little familiar." Zaro's agent acted as if he had expected this. "He is the head of the Silverlight team, the manager of Silver Wing's Virtual Projects Department, and also a contracted composer. His masterpiece is the 100-Year Period of Destruction series. Our previous movie, God of War, used his third movement. The one you paid 10 million for the rights to use." With this reminder, Zaro had an impression. The reason he remembered was not because his agent had mentioned the name of the film or movement, but because he had been wrongly beaten up. That time, his great-grandfather had been so angry that he had cried. Actually, it was the old master who had lost his temper while listening to the song. Zaro had almost been crippled, so how could he not remember? However, since then, Zaro's fortunes had turned. He had specially obtained a complete MV of all 4 movements of the 100-Year Period of Destruction series to curry favor with the old master and had received many benefits. He had wanted to poach Fang Zhao, but Silver Wing had not let him go. "So it's you." Zaro had started thinking of poaching again. He asked Fang Zhao, "Do you have any intentions of jumping ship?" "No." Fang Zhao was expressionless. He looked at Zaro again. "How did you know he was alive after 500 years? Zaro raised his hand and pointed in a direction. "They told me." Everyone looked in the direction Zaro was pointing. There were a few members of the Zebra Esports Club wearing black and white striped uniforms. "It wasn't us. We didn't say it in front of him." The Zebra Esports Club members were so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood. "They said it behind me," Zaro said decisively. He was not stupid. He knew what those people were thinking. They just wanted to use him to confirm whether Zhuoyu was alive after 500 years or not. It just so happened that Zaro was also curious. His thoughts turned, and he threw an orange at Schwarzer, who was spitting saliva everywhere besides Zhuoyu. Looking at Zhuoyu, who had caught the orange, he was sure that Zhuoyu was alive after 500 years. Such quick reflexes, such good skills, and that unique aura. If it wasn't alive after 500 years, who else could it be? Actually, those who had seen Zhuoyu catch the orange had the same thoughts as Zaro. That was why they had quietened down and listened to confirm their guesses. Fang Zhao swept a glance at the Zebra Esports Club members before turning back to Zaro. "You got the wrong person." "Got the wrong person? He isn't." "But I think he is." Zaro felt that his judgment was correct. It was just that Fang Zhao did not want to admit it. "Up to you." Actually, if not for Wayne's vehement objection to revealing his identity ahead of time, Fang Zhao would not have hidden it. To him, there was no need to be so complicated. However, Wayne's perspective was different. Wayne, as well as Silver Wing's publicity and public relations department, were thinking about how to maximize profits and attract the most attention. Wasn't that the case now? Because everyone's curiosity was piqued, Silver Wing received so much attention. When the entertainment media from every continent mentioned Fiery Bird's annual conference, they would also mention Silver Wing's Silverlight team. Fang Zhao did not explain much to Zaro. He just told him that it was impossible to poach people, and then he told the team members to go do what they needed to do. Zhuoyu raised the orange he had just caught and asked, "Then this orange?" "Cut it," Fang Zhao replied. Jinro and the others trembled at the same time. They felt that the 2 words Fang Zhao had just uttered were filled with killing intent. Zhuoyu grinned and pulled out the folding knife he always carried. He tossed the orange up and slashed it in the air at lightning speed. His other hand caught the orange that had yet to hit the ground and placed it on the fruit platter on the table. He made 2 more neat slashes and released his fingers. The orange was sliced into 8 pieces. The skin was thin and juicy, and a sweet fragrance wafted out. His movements were steady and decisive. The 8 pieces looked as if they had been measured by a machine. They were very even. Zaro's eyes lit up. Great knife skills. Zhuyu. Is there a hole in your brain? I thought you were the one slicing the orange. Can't you see that? In the end, Zaro's agent could not stand it anymore and found an excuse to drag Zaro away. The 6th floor returned to its previous liveliness. But from time to time, there were still quite a few gazes sizing them up. However, knowing that they would not be able to get any information, they did not insist on asking. In any case, they would find out tomorrow, right? At night, after the free time ended, everyone returned to the 62nd floor to rest. Wayne had already been informed of the day's events. He told Jinro and the others, I understand. You guys don't need to think about this anymore. Get a good night's sleep and prepare to be in your best condition tomorrow. They could not make a move on Zaro, so they blamed it on the Zebra Esports Club members. Wayne shook his head and returned to his room. Some people just love to play tricks. TSK then he contacted people to cause more trouble for the Zebra Esports Club. At the same time, on the internet, a piece of news had attracted the attention of many gaming fans. According to a certain team member in the hotel, alive after 500 years' true identity is suspected to be Fang Zhao's bodyguard. No one knew who had leaked the news, but there were no photos. Although there were no clear rules, there had always been an internal consensus that you could take any selfies here, but without permission, you could not take photos of others and post them on public platforms. Anyone who violated this rule would be looked down upon and ostracized by their peers. Thus, even if there were people selling the news, they did not dare sell the photos taken on the 6th floor. However, even if there were no photos, it was enough to excite gaming fans paying attention to Fiery Bird's annual conference. I was wondering why God alive after 500 years was so skilled. Turns out he was a bodyguard. According to rumors, Fang Zhao's bodyguard is from the Special Forces. Special Forces? So awesome. No wonder his marksmanship is so accurate. The number 1 on the global leaderboards is actually Fang Zhao's bodyguard. How shameless is Fang Zhao? Why would a bodyguard from the Special Forces go and play games? Maybe he was discovered to be highly skilled. Thinking back, Fang Zhao did not bring his bodyguard with him most of the time. He probably let his bodyguard go and play games to sweep points. Suspected is just a guess. There is no confirmation. You guys make it sound like you saw it with your own eyes. The more I think about it, the more likely it seems. There must be a reason for everything. Who is that little flying fish in the Silverlight team? Stop bickering. Anyway, we will know tomorrow at the annual conference. Every previous year's number 1 has to go on stage to speak. The next day, 62nd floor lobby of the hotel. The members of the Silverlight team were buzzing with activity. Where's the hairspray? My hair is messed up again. Hey, who brought the wrong clothes? The fuck, Dorian, you actually wear perfume. Why didn't I realize you were so showy? Bag. Where's my bag? Wayne directed the makeup artists he had brought to tidy up the team members. They could not do it themselves. Jinro, Dorian, and the others could still do it, but Schwarzer and the others could not bear to look at them. They had to rely on the professional makeup team. Today, what they had to face was not the attention of a small circle but the cameras of the global media. When we enter the venue, we will pass the signature wall. Should we sign our real names or our game IDs? Schwarzer asked. Schwarzer, are you a retard? Your game ID is the same as your real name, what's there to worry about? Jake scoffed. If your real name and game ID are different, you can sign either, Dorian said. Zhuyu, will you sign Little Flying Fish or your real name later? Schwarzer asked. Little Flying Fish. Zhuyu was not used to leaving his real name. The order of entering the venue was based on ranking. The Silverlight team was ranked below 50 globally, and only the main team members and the team's top brass could enter the main path leading to the venue. Everyone else entered through a different door. They waited until 5 p.m. before it was their turn. Coming out of the hotel, they stepped on a carpet with a fiery bird design. Under the gaze of numerous cameras, they walked toward the main entrance of the venue and left their names on the signature wall in the middle. Although the Silverlight team's ranking was lower and they appeared later, when they appeared, the reporters were clearly more excited. The sound of machinery running was louder. Especially when they were signing, the cameras were focused on each person signing. When Zhuo Yu signed his name and the ID Little Flying Fish, it also told the reporters who were making groundless accusations yesterday that they had the wrong person. This was also the first time Zhuo Yu had tasted such celebrity treatment. It was no wonder so many people wanted to be a celebrity. This sort of feeling was pretty good, but he also knew that all this attention was due to Fang Zhao. Chapter 166. Fang Zhao checked his seat according to the number he had been assigned. It was in the middle of the third row, facing the stage. When he arrived, the seats on both sides were already occupied. One was Bruce, the captain of Huangzhou's Phoenix Esports Club, who was currently ranked first on the leaderboards and third on the individual leaderboards. The other was Ma Xie, who was currently ranked second on the leaderboards. Bruce was stunned when he saw Fang Zhao sitting beside him. He smiled and said, "Hello, Bruce from Huangzhou's Phoenix." Fang Zhao smiled and replied, "Hello, Fang Zhao from Yenzhou's Silver Wing. I know you." Bruce glanced at Fang Zhao, who had no intention of moving. His gaze was absent-minded for a moment, as if he had suddenly thought of a profound question. "You are sitting here?" Bruce asked. "If the number on the invitation is correct, this is the place." As he said that, Fang Zhao tapped the exquisite invitation in his hand against a decorative hemispherical shape on the seat's handle. The white glow flickered and extinguished. The seat was correct. Bruce pointed at Fang Zhao, his mouth opening and closing before he squeezed out 2 words. "It's you." These words came out of nowhere, but Fang Zhao understood what he meant and nodded. Bruce was sizing up Fang Zhao like he was an alien, as if he wanted to study Fang Zhao thoroughly. Ma Xie, who had just finished a call, turned his head and gave Fang Zhao a courteous nod. After all, they were not familiar with each other, so Ma Xie did not intend to say much. But very quickly, Ma Xie abruptly turned his head to look at Fang Zhao, then at the seating arrangement before looking back at Fang Zhao in disbelief. "You are." Ma Xie coughed as if he had been stuck on a fishbone. When he saw Bruce nod with a conflicted expression, he said agitatedly, "This is impossible." As a long-established gold medal athlete, Ma Xie had always thought that alive after 500 years, who was above him, was a veteran shooter with more experience than him. Or perhaps, as the rumors said, he was an elite from the special forces. But now, he felt as if his worldview had been shattered. The person who had been above him for so long, whom he had not even wanted to overtake, was actually a youngster who was 20 years younger than him. And he was even a fucking composer. After taking a few deep breaths and suppressing the shock in his heart, Ma Xie asked solemnly, "Are you really alive after 500 years? He had already gotten a positive answer from Bruce, but he couldn't help but ask again. "Yes," Fang Zhao replied. Hearing this answer, the muscles on Ma Xie's cheeks trembled rapidly. He squeezed out a sentence from between his teeth. "Why did you give it such a name?" This was not a question, it was just a sigh. After saying this, Ma Xie posted 2 statuses on his social media platform. "What the fuck? I suddenly feel like I've been through a lot." As Fiery Bird's annual conference was about to begin, many of the attending esports stars posted selfies on their social media platforms. After entering the conference hall, Schwarzer picked the one he felt was the most handsome and posted it. Fans and other gaming enthusiasts could see a little from the live broadcast and would also pay attention to the status of their idols on social media platforms. Even if they couldn't head to Huangzhou's Fiery Bird headquarters to watch, they could still follow the progress of the annual gala online. Ma Xie had not posted a status before. He was not as enthusiastic as those younger athletes. This annual conference was nothing new to him, and there was no need to make his presence known. However, Marcia's fans had been waiting. Previously, when they had seen other esports stars posting selfies all over the place, Marcia had not made a single sound. They had been wondering if Marcia had decided not to post when they saw the system notification. Not only had Marcia posted a status, he had posted two in a row. This was an extremely rare occurrence, not to mention the information contained in these two statuses. Some fans were puzzled. What's wrong with our war horse? Marjo's full name was Mercishu. It was named after the founding great General Mercishu. In some old-era myths, Mercishu was also known as the war god. As a competitive continent, Mercishu gave top talents in certain industries the title of war god. As a gold medal shooter, Marcia was also known as war god Marcia, or war horse. Many people had noticed Marcia posting two statuses in a row. Fang Zhao had also seen it in the screenshot Zhu Wen had sent. Looking at you, I feel like I've aged. Marcia stared at Fang Zhao with a complicated expression. As a genius shooter, Marcia had heard most of the praise he had received from various parties. He had never experienced such a setback before. Fang Zhao really wanted to tell him, "You are not old. In my eyes, you are just like a child." But if he said this, Marcia would definitely feel that Fang Zhao was mocking him. Marcia still wanted to say a few more words to Fang Zhao. He wanted to ask why Fang Zhao's shooting skills were so good, but the venue suddenly quietened down. Fiery Bird's annual conference was about to begin, so he could only suppress the doubts in his heart. In the reporters' area, an old reporter was scanning the venue when his gaze suddenly froze. The old reporter asked the person beside him, the one sitting between Bruce and Marcia, "Take a look. I'm afraid my eyesight isn't good and I've seen wrongly." "Your eyesight isn't good. You are nicknamed Eagle Eye. Even now, your eyesight doesn't lose out to the youngsters." "Forget it, let me see. Where is it?" "Marcia." Bruce and Marcia should be sitting in the second or third row. "Oh, the third row. I see them. The one in the middle, fuck. Isn't that Fang Zhao?" The old reporter continued to stare in that direction. "I thought I saw wrongly. That's not right. According to the previous seating arrangements, the person sitting there should be the top individual leaderboard. He will be receiving the award and giving a speech later. Could it be that alive after 500 years is unable to come and is asking him to lead the way?" This sort of thing was not rare. Among gaming gods, there were also a few with strange personalities who did not like to appear in such places. Or perhaps they were physically inconvenienced. For example, there was one person in the top 10 individual leaderboard who was physically ill and lying in the hospital, but his brain was not affected. He was still very good at gaming, and he had gotten someone to lead the way for the award ceremony this time around. As alive after 500 years was too mysterious, many people guessed that it was because he was seriously ill and his body was inconvenienced, so he did not appear in front of people. The old reporter nodded. "That's a possibility. But there's another possibility." As for the other possibility, everyone had the same thought, but every time it popped up, it was suppressed. Because it really did not seem like it. We are not the only ones with such doubts. Let's wait and see. It's starting. The annual conference began. As usual, Fiery Bird's old CEO reminisced about the company's past, analyzed the present, and looked forward to the future. The host introduced a few more guests for today. They were all gods who had dominated the esports circles for decades, but due to illness or age, they could no longer participate. Instead, they were involved in some industry related to gaming or had already become actors. No matter what, they were all celebrities who had once shone, and they still had fans. They could be considered the seniors of the various esports athletes present, and they had rather high statuses in the industry. This time, they had been invited to share some of their experiences. Secondly, which was also the most important reason, they would be the guest presenters and present the awards to the winners. The order of the awards was that the individual leaderboards came first, followed by the group teams. As for the top 10 leaderboards, they were presented in order from last to first. First were the 7th to 10th places, followed by the 4th, 5th, and 6th places, and finally the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd places. Next, let's welcome the top 3 on the leaderboards: Phoenix's Bruce, Marcier, and Silverwing 50 Polarlights alive after 500 years. The spotlights shone down. Bruce and Marcier stood up one after the other, maintaining a perfect smile on their faces. No matter what they were conflicted about, they concealed it extremely well on their faces. They turned to the back and waved before walking toward the stage. Fang Zhao's name was called after them, so he stood up after Bruce and Marcier. Chapter 167. On the internet, the discussion forums of many live broadcast platforms had exploded. Why? Give me back my 500-year-old godly image. Why is it Fang Zhao? The discussion forums were filled with one could tell how the audience was feeling. Other people were screaming excitedly after seeing their idol, but here, it was a roar of frustration at the truth. They couldn't be blamed for their disbelief. Why did everyone keep guessing that alive after 500 years was from the special forces or some special department? Reality and the virtual world were not the same. Some people could not even catch a chick in the real world, but they could wreak havoc in the game. Some people had bodies as strong as steel tanks in the real world, but their in-game personas were pretty boys. No one could say for sure, but professionals had analyzed alive after 500 years' in-game behavior. It was too breathtaking and unexpected. If he was not a veteran gamer, then he had outstanding abilities. There had never been a legend of this person in the gaming circles, so it could only be the latter. If it had been Zhuo Yu standing here tonight, perhaps everyone's reactions would not have been so intense, but it was Fang Zhao, a composition graduate who had never made a name for himself in the gaming circles. He looked refined, without the slightest hint of violence. Anyone who saw him would think that he was an artist, and he bore no resemblance to the domineering point-sweeping demon alive after 500 years in games. Furthermore, logically speaking, it was extremely rare for team management to personally take the field and fight on the front lines. Who the fuck would have thought of this? Especially those who had cursed Fang Zhao fiercely 2 days ago. At this moment, their brains were numb. The person they had cursed and the person they had tried so hard to protect were the same person. What could they do? I cursed Fang Zhao before. Do you think he will sign it the next time I ask him for an autograph? I cursed him too. This is fucking awkward. Which bastard was leading the tempo? The naive and innocent me was led astray. They could not stand Fang Zhao. They felt that Fang Zhao was not a gamer, yet he was managing a team. Regardless of what the Silverlight team thought internally, these onlookers could not stand it. In the past, there were many examples of well-developed esports clubs being destroyed by outsiders, so they were extremely disgusted with this kind of behavior. Secondly, there had been a lot of rumors about Fang Zhao oppressing the members of the team. Naturally, they did not have a good impression of Fang Zhao. Furthermore, there had been news yesterday that Fang Zhao's bodyguard might be alive after 500 years. Everyone felt that their idol was actually a bodyguard for an outsider, which made them feel even more upset. But now, the more energetic he had been, the more conflicted he felt. Why didn't Silver Wing make it public earlier? What's the point of hiding it? It's a commercial company's way of maximizing profits. Only by not announcing it will he be able to whet everyone's appetite. Fang Zhao can't be blamed. Annoying. I'm very frustrated right now. Actually, Silver Wing already mentioned it a long time ago, right? Bullshit. When did he say that? Why didn't I know about it? When Jinro and the others first signed with Silver Wing. When this was brought up, Yangju gaming fans suddenly recalled that there had indeed been such an incident in the past. Someone scrolled through the statuses on Jinro and the others' social media platforms, took screenshots one by one, and posted them together. On the day that Jinro and the others had signed with Silver Wing, they had all posted the same statuses. Our boss is alive after 500 years. At that time, everyone had thought that Jinro and the others were referring to alive after 500 years. In many esports clubs, team captains were also referred to as bosses, so everyone had followed this line of thinking. Because at that time, alive after 500 years had indeed been leading the team. Later on, it had been Jinro and Dorian who had led the team. But now, after the truth was laid out before their eyes, everyone understood that Jinro and the others had actually been telling them that Silverwing 50 Polarlight's boss, the team's highest authority, Fang Zhao, was alive after 500 years. Really? Shady. Dangerous. I feel like my IQ has been hit. Who would have thought of this back then? The discussion forums were filled with frenzied cries of "Ah!" However, no amount of shouting could calm the surging emotions in their hearts. They had to find an outlet to vent, or else they would go crazy. Even if they didn't want to blame themselves, they couldn't blame Silverwing. What was the use of talking about this with a commercial entertainment company? Blame Fang Zhao? Sigh, they really didn't have the face. At this moment, someone suddenly said, "That's right. Wang Tai, you piece of trash." The discussion forums suddenly quietened down. Hey! The eyes of Yanzhou's gaming fans lit up. They had suddenly found a target to vent their frustrations on. Thus, everyone's muzzles turned back to Wang Tai, and the discussion forums once again exploded. Simply trash. Such a big scoop, yet we didn't even catch the slightest bit of it. There isn't even the slightest bit of useful information. Wang Tai, have you gone into hibernation? The main character is right in front of you. Why can't you find out the truth? To think that Wang Tai is known as our Yanzhou's strongest paparazzi. Wang Tai must have been scared out of his wits after being locked up once, right? Wang Tai can't hold on any longer. The title of Yanzhou's strongest paparazzi has to change hands. Wang Tai, who had already infiltrated Huangju and was currently tailing a certain celebrity. Why are you scolding me? Normally, this bunch of people hated him for being a busybody and accused him of being bored and peeping on celebrities' private lives. Now, they were blaming him for not being well informed. Seeing these curses online, Wang Tai's heart was miserable. He actually wanted to explain to those people online, "You might not believe me if I say this, but I knew who he was a long time ago. I just didn't dare say it." Being scared out of his wits was indeed correct. However, it wasn't being scared out of his wits, it was being scared out of his wits by Fang Zhao. Taking a deep breath and wiping his face, Wang Tai decided that tonight, he would make 2 big moves to redeem his image as the strongest paparazzi. He didn't dare capture news about Fang Zhao, but he had captured news about other celebrities, and quite a few of them. This proved that his ability hadn't waned and that his title as Yanzhou's strongest was still firmly in place. Yangzhou. Natty Woozy, who was also watching the live broadcast, was so shocked that he nearly dropped the electric guitar he was hugging. When he recalled how he had used the phrase "world's #1" to persuade Fang Zhao, Natty Woozy felt his face hurt. No wonder Fang Zhao had been so calm when he had heard the phrase "world's #1" and described the grand blueprint. He had actually enjoyed the treatment of world's #1 a long time ago. The gaming circles received even more attention than the ancient instrument circles. He was even more popular. Hey, that kid. Natty Woozy felt that he would need to play the guitar all night to calm his emotions. Not to mention the intense reactions of the gaming fans in Yangzhou and across the globe, even the audience at the venue roared when Fang Zhao stood up. Although people wouldn't make a ruckus, they would still discuss it with their teammates or acquaintances in private. A few people's discussions wouldn't be heard, but what if 99% of the audience at the venue was discussing it? The 2S esports club members had complicated feelings. They were all from Yangzhou, and their rankings were higher than Silverlight's, but the attention that Silverlight received exceeded that of the Big 5 esports club. After all, Silverlight had produced a #1 on the leaderboards. It was understandable that everyone was paying attention, and they were also curious. However, now that the truth was right in front of them, they found it even harder to accept. Remember that before Battle of the Century was released, during the press conference at Fiery Bird's Yangzhou branch? That kid seemed to have said "bring it on." I had always thought that he only said those words because he was in charge of the team and that he relied on the special treatment Silverwing gave him and the experts in the team to be so arrogant. Now, it seems that he is not relying on others but himself. Captain Xie, he said in a low voice. Cosimo's expression kept changing. That is to say, the one who overtook us in the heavy-duty motorcycle practice match was him? On stage, Fang Zhao stood together with Bruce and Marcia as they accepted the award. The presenter and guest presenter did not appear too surprised. They had more or less heard some news from old acquaintances within Fiery Bird. As presenters, they had the right to understand information about the winners before deciding whether or not they would be presenters. Therefore, if they appeared too shocked at this time, it would be fake. The people on the internet were not easy to deceive. The person presenting the award to Fang Zhao was a godly gamer who no longer battled online. This person had stopped participating in esports due to his age and had started investing in game production and talent development. He had also made many contributions to the esports industry. The former godly gamer handed the trophy to Fang Zhao and said, "You are pretty good." He could not say anything else. If Fang Zhao was really alive after 500 years, even at their peak, they would not have been able to beat Fang Zhao, so it would not be good for them to put on airs and give pointers. "Thank you." Fang Zhao accepted the trophy. After the award ceremony, just like in previous years, as the number one on the leaderboards, Fang Zhao could not immediately step down after receiving the trophy. He had to say a few words. In the past, those winners would say some reflections, thank the heavens, thank the earth, thank their family, thank the company, express their excitement, or talk about how difficult it was for them, but Fang Zhao could not be like them. He could not even pretend. However, he had other things to say. Standing on stage, Fang Zhao calmly scanned the audience. The cameras were transmitting the real situation to gaming fans all over the world. I know that everyone must be surprised by my identity as alive after 500 years. I have also seen some of the comments online. Fang Zhao had a faint smile on his face as he spoke calmly, as if he was having a normal chat with someone. Online, discussion forums. God. Please don't say it. It's over. He definitely saw what I scolded him. I regret it. I should have put on a sock puppet when I was scolding people in the past. I originally wanted to wait for Fiery Bird's annual conference to end before going to the Silver Wing headquarters to ask for autographs. Now I feel a little apprehensive. Do you think I will be kicked out by him? Those who had scolded Fang Zhao previously felt their faces burning. On stage, Fang Zhao did not say much about this. Instead, he continued, I also know that many people are unable to accept this. When I received the invitation, Mr. Tang Can contacted me and discussed this matter. Tang Can, Fiery Bird's executive vice president. His figure could be seen at important events related to Fiery Bird. People familiar with Fiery Bird were no strangers to him. When Fang Zhao mentioned Tang Can, the sharp-witted reporters sat up straight. They knew that what Fang Zhao was going to say next was the main point. On stage, Fang Zhao looked straight ahead, his gaze fixed on the camera lens. What he was going to say next was for the gaming fans watching the live broadcast. I'll give you guys a chance. Fiery Bird will temporarily open up a practice area. Starting from now, in 3 hours, there will be an additional challenge request option at the top right of the Battle of the Century login window. Officials will select 10 challengers from the list of applicants. Tomorrow morning at 10, I will be waiting for you there. Jinro, Dorian, Milo, and the others. What a familiar line. These words sound a little familiar, Schwarzer said as he clutched his chest. His ribs were aching too. The feeling of being kicked offline was clearly imprinted in their minds. They recalled a not-so-wonderful memory. After Fang Zhao had said those words, he politely bowed to the audience and left the stage. However, Fang Zhao's words were like a bomb that had been dropped, setting off a huge wave. Gaming fans watching the live broadcast were all gearing up. They could no longer be bothered with scolding Wang Tai. All of them went to submit their applications. It was every gaming fan's dream to be able to kill their own idol in the game. Hand over the Barrett your father got from completing the last mission. Don't stop me. I want to fight Fang Zhao to the death. Only I can snipe 500 years. Those in front, get out of the way. I will help everyone verify whether he is real or not. Those studios that specialized in selling accounts and equipment also got busy. Quick, quick, take down all the currently on sale and submit your challenge request. Boss, take down all the currently on sale accounts now. All of them. Immediately. Immediately. Every studio operated over 100 accounts. These were all resources. They knew that Fiery Bird would not only select professional gamers. They would probably pick some amateurs as well, and it might not be completely based on the leaderboards. Thus, they all wanted to give it a try and apply. What if they won? If they won an account, the value of that account would skyrocket. Perhaps they would not have to work for the next 10 years. With so many nouveau riche gamers, surely many would be willing to pay a high price. And many gamers who were rushing to apply realized that the application window was actually stuck for 1 second. 1 second was really not long. This sort of situation often occurred in other applications, but for it to happen in Fiery Bird, it was simply unimaginable. Just how many people had applied to cause such a situation? It was not just the gamers watching the live broadcast online.